Anyway, like, yeah, it's a little weird. It's hot in my room. That's what I was trying to get at. I'm going to turn on some tunes here for us, so we can have some background music while we program. Yeah, so today we're going to do something pretty fun. Huge quality. This is mid-tier. We're talking high tier. I don't want to talk to you about mid-tier. I want to talk to you about high tier, okay? I can look into the camera. I can read lines that I have in my head. You know, we can really connect. So I wanted to talk about some internal stuff today. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna switch over to my view here. So what is a streaming internal query engine? I tweeted something out that I think didn't make all that much sense. But what am I talking about? What is this about? What are we going to do today? Essentially, what we have today is that we have a database that when it does internal stuff, it's very common in the database to want to run a query from another query in a sense. A user does something, or there's some process that's going on that needs to query the database from within the database, you know, crazy meta stuff. We have what we call this internal executor, okay? What is that? What is it about? It's basically, let's think of a good example actually. A good example is maybe if you are, actually, you know, I don't have an example. That's crazy. I don't have an example, but I'm gonna find one right now. Together with you guys. It's very easy to find an example of this thing because all you have to do is search around in the code for something called internal executor. And this thing is used anytime the database needs to query itself. Maybe my IDE is a little laggy, you know, a little laggy. I just like changed branches, so now it has to like, I don't know. It's gotta load stuff up. It's a little embarrassing. It's embarrassing to have a laggy IDE. It's like a, I don't know, a faux pas. It's like having salad on your face after you eat, right? Salad on your face after you eat. What is this though? Okay, let's, I think it finished. Okay, here we go. Internal executor. We have this thing. Where do we use it? Where do we use it? Desync Batman, dude? Do we have problems? Oh my god. This could be highly problematic if we have huge problems with video audio. We might have to switch to the low quality cam. I'm not sure. Video seems laggy, dude. That's so unfortunate. So you think that it's like my face is slower than a half a second behind? Was it like that from the beginning? Hey, thanks for the follow. My dude. Thank you. This MD Layer has been doing his own stream. It's pretty interesting. It's also a Golang stream. It was fine when you arrived. Interesting. I don't know. I think that's unfortunate. I think I might have to swap off of this HD cam for the stream then until I figure this out, because truthfully I have no clue what might be going on. Well, it fixed when Paul refreshed. I don't know. Let's just leave it alone for now. You guys keep letting me know what's happening. So what am I talking about though? Internal executors. Let's talk about what that thing is again, because we haven't even gotten into it. This is happening. Let's look at this example. This is something called the statement diagnostics result table. What is this about? I have no idea. I think this is happening when the UI of the database is asking for some information about how a statement is running. And it does that by sending like a gRPC request of some sort to the backend via some proto thing, which is what this status server statement diagnostics API call is about. And what it does under the hood though is it just runs a query via SQL, because we are of course a SQL database. It's pretty convenient to figure stuff out about internal data using SQL, the same interface that we expose to our users. And to do that, we run this query row thing against something called an internal executor. So the thing about this internal executor is that it works a bit differently from the way that the connection that clients get works. The way that the basic client connection works to CockroachDB is that it's talking over the network. It's sending packets over the network, these PG wire, Postgres wire protocol packets, back and forth. And in fact, it's sort of like, let's say you were a client and you asked for, 1 million rows from the database or something like that. The way it works is there's a bit of a network protocol where, the client maybe sends some sync message or something like that, and the database will send back a couple of rows at a time. I don't exactly know the details, to be perfectly honest, but the point is that it sort of streams these rows back in a way that's sort of nice, in a sense. It doesn't buffer them all up on the server side or something like that. I think when I started working on CockroachDB, we did have that problem, which was that we couldn't do massive queries because we did actually buffer all the rows somewhere in the server before sending them back to the client, which is of course not really tenable if you're doing massive queries, or even not so massive queries. It's just not so great to not be able to stream stuff back. And the problem that I want to look at today is that this internal executor thing that we use all over the place, it has the same problem as the original implementation did, which is that it buffers everything. Let's look at this particular query. It's saying select some stuff from system.statement diagnostics where something else. Let's say this where wasn't here and we were doing a full scan of everything that's in the system statement diagnostics table. All of that data, maybe there's 1,000 rows, maybe it would get buffered up into memory. And that can lead to big problems. If there's a lot of these things going on at once, maybe we'll start using a lot of memory, and that can cause serious problems, essentially. What's worse is that you have to keep track, theoretically, since we're written in this Go programming language, of how much memory things are using, because Go doesn't really give you hooks into that kind of information. If you're going to ask for a lot of memory, you have to pay careful attention that you're not asking for too much, or you might run out of memory. There's nothing preventing you from just allocating a big chunk and ooming the system, essentially. So there's a double problem, which is that not only do we not stream things from this internal executor thing, but we also don't account for the memory that we use for buffering. And this leads to out-of-memory problems. Not so great. That's what we're going to fix. Ooh, you just reminded me that I should set up the rainbow brackets again in VS Code. Yeah, it is. I'm a big fan of the rainbow brackets. That's pretty cool. There's a plugin for it here. I guess it says so at the bottom right of my screen. Oh, you can't even see that, but it does in fact. I think it's yelling at me because I haven't updated the plugin in a while. Anyway, cool. So let's dive into it. To be honest, I thought I was gonna draw some pictures about this, but truthfully, I'll just draw a little picture and then we can keep it up and maybe that will be helpful for new people who join the stream. We'll sort of say, let's say we did, select star from, I think one of the big ones that we're seeing problems with, by the way, is this jobs table. The jobs table is something that we use to keep track of what long-running jobs the database is doing at the moment. And there can be lots of those things. And so we see problems where there's an internal query that asks for all of the jobs in the system. And there's so many that it starts to use lots of memory. So I'm going to use that as my example. I'm going to draw a little box for this guy. Select star from system.jobs. And there's some wheres in here, but let's just ignore that for the time being. And I'm going to kind of try to say that the result of this thing, it gets sent into a giant buffer. Giant buffer. And essentially in this stream, I want to abolish this giant buffer. This is like the worst diagram ever. And replace it with a nice happy stream, which I'll draw in green for good. Happy stream. This is probably going to be completely unintelligible for people joining the stream without this explanation. But hey, what am I to do about that? Hey, J1, what's up? Thanks for joining. How you doing? Nodding and smiling, exactly. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, you guys. So I'm Goats. I guess he's at Google now. He has this paper. I really want to read it. I saw it in Sigmod. It's about some kind of advanced merge join thing. It looks really, really cool. So the goal is to abolish this thing and get this thing. Okay, whatever. Good enough. Canceled. Did I say it totally wrong? I don't know. Okay, so here's the thing. The thing is that I did some prior work on this that did not work out that I want to explain, if possible. The prior work is that previously we have a couple of interfaces, by the way, on this internal executor thing. We have one that just always returns a single row. That's what this query row variant is. It says, give me back the results for a SQL query, but if there's more than one row, give me some error saying that I, the client, or the developer who wrote this code, did something wrong. This query is giving me back more than one row. And this one we're not really too concerned with because, of course, it's okay to buffer up just one row. That's not really something we're concerned with. So let's ignore that one for a second. We have this other set of interfaces, though, that's just called query. Query X, query with calls. This X thing, I think it's meant to be extended or something like that. I'm not sure. I think it lets you pass some extra flags. I'm a little bit, I've never loved the naming of that, but that's okay. I think this is kind of the interface that we want to mess with. And what I did in my prior work is that I attempted to try to change the interface. So here's what the interface used to look like. Instead of having a chan of datums, which if you're familiar with Go means like this channel thing that lets you concurrently have another thread reading from a channel, blah, blah, blah. Probably you're familiar with that, hopefully, because I'll probably butcher the explanation. Instead of a channel, we had just a slice of these things. And if you notice, this data type is called datums with the plural. That's because it's a slice of datums, aka a row. We use this all over the place to represent a row, essentially. So we would return a slice of datums, and that was meant to be, n rows or something like that, the results of the query. And of course, this thing was the thing that was blowing up. You could have 1 million rows in this slice, and that would be really sad if you were trying to not use up all the memory in your system. So what I did in my prototype is that I changed the interface to use a channel. And there's all sorts of annoying plumbing that we'll get into that made this sort of a pain in the butt. But there's still kind of a big problem with just returning a channel of datums, which is that even if we hooked up the execution engine, as we did in my prototype, to push rows into this channel, there's still this potential that somewhere in the middle of a query execution, you could get back an error. So not an error up front, which is what this second argument is. If we have an obvious parsing error or something like that in this query X guy, we can return it as the second argument. But if we got an error in the middle of the query, like maybe there was a divide by 0 or something like that, it's going to be troublesome because we won't be able to notice it unless we do something else. So that's what we need to kind of figure out right now. KinoDem, hi, hope you will have a great weekend. Keep going, you're doing great. Thanks, man, you too. Channels and APIs can make your life difficult sometimes. I have recently been experimenting with iterator style like next bool error. Yes, okay, so that's a great comment because that's kind of what we do all over the place in SQL land. And I'll show you, since you do seem to care, which is awesome. Thank you for caring. This is in fact our exact API for, well, one of our APIs for doing what we call volcano model iterator style of SQL execution. Each plan node, which is like a node in this execution graph, will next its parent. And then the parent will generate its row and kind of tell you whether I have any more left to do or not. So the thing is though, and yeah, so what definitely one option for doing this refactor is to change all of the users of query row or query rows rather, to use an iterator. The thing that's irritating about it that I kind of wanted to see if I could theoretically avoid is that there's a bajillion users of this thing. And they love to use this pattern of give me back my rows and iterate over them. right? So this is like the typical pattern. And it used to look something like this, by the way, before I changed it to use a chan, which didn't really work out. It said, you know, for each of the rows in my slice of rows, do some work. And I was hoping to try to avoid having to refactor every single one of these guys. But I don't know if it's possible. I think, so essentially what I was considering doing on this stream is either adding the requirement that after somebody iterates through these rows, they also do some kind of error checking. So they're like, you know, did I get a channel? I don't know. Something like this. Did I get an error on some error channel? And check that guy. And if so, return an error. That's a possibility. And another possibility is that I could just completely change the interface of this thing to be something more like an iterator thing, or what PGX or libpq does for their database drivers. Not having a standard iterator interface is one of Go's great sins. I completely agree with you. It is really troublesome and gross. You're constantly having to roll your own little like Python-style yield mechanisms is at least what I've done in the past couple of times. So I wanted to actually, so there's this other idea, right, which is that we could theoretically decide to use a database driver interface internally. So we could take database SQL, which is the Golang way of talking to databases, which I guess, how would I pull that up? Where do we use libpq in this database? We kind of use this irritating mix of libpq and pgx for a couple of weird reasons. So here's an example of somebody using the database SQL API. Exactly, yeah, exactly. So one problem would be that there's this nice thing in the database right now, which is that when we return from this internal executor, you're getting sort of the native CockroachDB data structures, which are called datums. And you can use those, you can inspect their types, you can do anything that you could anywhere internally. And that's like super, super convenient. So one disadvantage of converting to use a database SQL-like interface, which is what we have here, this is like, you can implement this in many different ways. Then you would have to like cast stuff and try to figure out types and stuff like that, and it would kind of be a disaster. So that's like not really all that appealing. But yeah, another kind of disadvantage of this would be that you wouldn't get the, I mean, it really is all about the type information. Some of these drivers do provide some type information in the returned parameters of their query methods. PGX has kind of a nice way of doing it. It returns the type OIDs, which is a Postgres thing that we also implement, of each of the columns. And you could theoretically use those to like inflate stuff, but it's just such a pain that, it makes me sad. So there is another idea, which is that you could take inspiration from the interface that libpq or PGX gives you, or database SQL, I guess, and implement it just with some slight difference. Essentially, like pretend Go had generics, and instead of returning what these sort of opaque data type things, which is what. Let me show you an example. So this is the database SQL interface. When you get your data back, it populates this value slice thing. And what's a value? Well, it's just interface, right? So I could theoretically say that, I mean, if it's just interface, I guess you could just return data in there and have people cast. Maybe that's not so bad. Maybe that's actually not so bad. I do think it would be convenient to have something that returned, it said, instead of next value, it said next slice of data. That could be kind of appealing. And I think, I think is there still a problem with that though? I know that there's this one use case that I noticed, which is this thing called query with calls that we implemented somewhere. Where is that? With calls. So this guy, it's like query X, but it also returns the computed result columns of the input query. So result columns is the way that we expose metadata information about each of the columns of a query. And it has some interesting things like the name of the column, of course, which database SQL does give you back. But it also has all of this more kind of better information, like the type, whether it's hidden, the table ID. These are things that Postgres protocol theoretically could return, but database SQL doesn't make it easy to get any of this information out, because all it gives you back inside of their rows interface thing is a slot to return strings. And the strings are the column names. So what am I talking about? It's, what am I talking about? Where is it at? Is it this guy? Yeah, so rows is an iterator over an executed query's results. It allows you to populate a slice of values, which we can use just fine, I think. It allows you to close the iterator, and then it allows you to get the string names of all the columns. Ideally, this would be like an interface. Instead of string, it would be something that we could implement specially. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not really quite sure. I think it really comes down to whether or not I feel okay with making everybody re-implement their little loops. And realistically, I feel like that probably would be good. I think that it's unrealistic to expect that this simple for loop pattern is robust enough to provide all the guarantees that we want to provide, especially given the fact that this first thing I was proposing would require them to like actually explicitly check errors at the end of the loop, which is already changing them enough to like justify maybe changing them completely. Yeah. So actually, let me check one thing. So I want to see. Let's say theoretically we did implement database SQL. Would any of the users of this query with calls thing? What's going on with this? Oh, I changed something, so everybody's unhappy with me, or I didn't change anything. What I wanted to check was whether any of the users of this query with calls thing actually uses any of the fields on result columns except for the name. If the answer is no, then I think that we could theoretically decide to convert this to database SQL, and that would be pretty nice. I see. Oh, right. So a lot of people use this make result scanner thing. What does this do? Make result scanner. Okay, so it creates something that inspects the name of the columns that we return. So we decided that that's allowable. And does it do anything else? So at least in this one case, we don't do anything else besides inspect the name of the column, which kind of seems nice. That's promising. That makes it seem like theoretically we could decide to implement database SQL and not run into problems. I think that the one last a little bit of irritant here is that we would have this slice of interface that we would have to convert to slice of datum. And of course, you can't just do a single cast that does that. You have to make a new slice and copy it, which is like super nasty. But the truth is that that's actually maybe not so bad, because the database SQL interface that we were even looking at implementing only has like 3 methods on it. So theoretically, we could just provide a converter from rows to what would we do exactly? No, I think maybe you would have to kind of cast everywhere. I'm not sure. So here's what I'm going to propose. I think what I'll try to do. Whoops, I like got caught on my headphones there. What I'll propose is that we implement database SQL for one, just like somewhere, not like try to copy everything else or edit everything at once. We'll implement it somewhere and see how horrible it is, and maybe go from there. Does that make sense? Or I guess since we know what the interface is, we can sort of just pretend that we had it here. Yeah, so as an example, let's say in this particular query, so this query here runs show tables from. What would this look like if we got back a database SQL query result from this? we would sort of say, we might actually even have like a database SQL connection sitting around somewhere in one of these structs. I can't remember. Probably not, honestly, because nobody connects to the database from within the database using an actual network connection. But hold on, so let's just grab this. What does this query interface look like again from database SQL? Query context. I think this is probably what we would want to use. And what is this thing called? This is a star DB, which is a database SQL DB. So if I just grab SQL.db, and of course I have a conflict, so this is like, we have a package called SQL, and this would have to be like another SQL package. That's irritating. Maybe I'll call it like DB SQL. And then up here I'll have to import it using an alias. How does one do that anyway? Database SQL, maybe like this, I think is how it works. DB SQL. Just call connection.new, localhost 26257 should work. SQL2 database SQL, yeah. So if I said dbsql.db, if I just like pretended I had one here, I kind of like the idea of opening a connection to myself. But if I did db.query show tables from blah, blah, and this is probably going to be a, does this guy use the, yeah, it uses the placeholder syntax. And this, I guess, takes a context. I should be using the query context thing. So, and this gives me back what? It gives me back a rows and an error. What is this unhappy about? Oh, I have like duplicate names here. So if I had, okay, I'll just call it rows 2. That's really horrible. So if I had rows 2, and then I said rows 2 dot next. Now I'm a bit confused because I thought that the thing that it gave me back was, I thought it had a method that I passed in a slice of stuff to populate. Why is that different? Did I just get like super confused? What is this? This is, oh, is RS like some other kind of thing? I'm so confused. Rows is the result of a query. What? Maybe, are there like, oh, I see. Oh, this is confusing. So there's this like driver package that's distinct from the database SQL package. And I guess what people actually look at is this other interface. So they, you saw the title of the stream. Does anybody get the, I tried to do like a subtweet on my stream title. So yeah, the question is like, do people get this driver rows interface or do they get the database SQL rows interface? I have no idea. I find that slightly perplexing. What is the MongoDB get them out? Yeah, so question is like, what if I look up database SQL Golang? What does the documentation give me about this particular problem? It says that I get back dude, what? Is this thing like just busted now? It used to be that these examples would like be nice and expanded, but now this seems to be a little bit truncated. Stealth Jepsoned? Yeah. Well, this is horrible. They need to fix their web design. I can't. Okay, I can go like this. So right, so here's what they do. They run db query context. They get back a rows, and then they actually use this rows.scan thing. Okay, I mean, that's sort of sad, right? Because that doesn't exactly give me what I wanted. I was excited by the lower level driver interface because that maps a lot more easily onto the model where we don't have to mess around too much with this like type inference stuff, which is what the database SQL driver does. I was excited that it was just going to give me a next, and then it would give me the user would pass in a slice of interface. So how does one get to this driver interface, and who uses that, if at all? Or is that really just totally internal and nobody's meant to touch it at all? Okay, so you can ask for the driver. Driver returns the database's underlying driver. Does anybody mess with this? It's for driver implementers, not general users. I mean, are we a general user? I don't know. I think we can theoretically do whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I just find this interface a lot more convenient. I find this interface a lot more convenient. Maybe what we ought to do is just make our own interface and forget this whole thing of trying to convert it into database SQL. That probably seems a bit limiting. Maybe we should literally just like make yet another iterator interface and do whatever we want with it. I feel like that's probably what we want to be doing. So like theoretically, let's say, okay, so where would this live? Does internal executor have its own package? Internal executor. It kind of does. SQL util. Let's say why don't we like make a little interface here? We'll call it. I see. So I guess actually we want to extend this interface, but we'll make a rows interface. So internal rows. I don't know. We'll come up with a better name for it later. And this is going to have, I guess it'll have, what? Yeah, so are we going to pass in a slice of tree.datums, or is it going to give us back a slice of tree.datums? I think I like passing in a slice of tree.datums. Next populates the input tree.datums with the next row from this row iterator, or something like that. And then I guess we want to have an error field. Is that what they do in database SQL? They don't. Well, at least in this drivers level thing, I see. In the user-facing thing, I think they have an error thing, right? Yeah, they have an error thing. What is the interface that this thing implements? Oh, it doesn't implement an interface. It just is. Let's go back and look at the documentation then. The documentation says it's got a close, a types. It has column types. I thought I was just looking at this and it said it didn't have column types. I'm hyper confused right now. That's okay. It's got next result set, which I don't think we care about here. I don't think that you can actually run compound statements from within the database. I think something blows up before you get to try to do that. It has a close, it has an error, and it's got a next. I feel like that's reasonable. So this will return an error, and it's got an error. And I think maybe, and I guess, right, we also need this types thing. And the column types, it can just return our SQL-based result columns thing, which is like the internal guy that we like to use. And then I think, yeah, I wonder if we did this, and let's just make a dummy interface method that returns this thing to see what it would look like. We'll call it, we'll just like add to the horrible menagerie of interface methods on this guy. There's already like so many variations, but we'll call it query new. We'll call it query iterator. Maybe. And this thing will take the same thing as what query X takes, I think. since those things seem pretty important, and it'll return an internal rows and an error, I think. And if we have that, then what would it look like for this person to use it? Get rid of all this stuff. Death to database SQL, that was just not gonna work. That was not gonna be a good idea. And we'll call query iterator. That's a really bad name, but okay. And so we're using a concrete implementation of this thing. So we'll need to push the method down into this guy as well, I guess. Query X. So we'll call where did that go? Internal executor. Let's copy paste this definition, and we will add it to this struct and make it compile. That's important too. And this thing is going to return. So this guy can't import that guy. Is that what's happening here? Can we not get? Yeah, we can. SQL util dot internal rows. Okay, so this is just going to return nil for now. We'll just make it panic. Implemented. Okay, so we've got that set up, and in our sample use case, we're going to say query iterator, pass in all this stuff, and we'll get back rows error. And what would it look like? Down here, instead of having a for loop now, what we're gonna have is our own little bespoke, handcrafted for loop thing that says, I guess, for rows dot error not equal to or equal nil or something. Why is this unhappy? Oh, did I already define rows up here? That's another, okay, we'll call it then. Broke slice of rows, woke database SQL bespoke what Jordan is about to do. Oh man, that's a good tweet. For iterator.error is equal to nil. It dot. Do I also need a has next? Do I also need a has next now that I've done this janky thing where I pass in the... Would it be better to just have next return the slice instead of me passing in the slice to fill in? I think maybe, because the iterator does have state, so the iterator can keep its little row inside of it. Nobody has to... This outer person doesn't... But then are we going to have problems where people want to copy the data? Oh my gosh, this is just like... I feel like we have so many little implementations of this exact thing in all sorts of different places within the database, all with the exact same set of problems. So frustrating. So frustrating. If somebody wanted to copy the data out of this thing, would they be able to? Yes or no? I think they would have to actually not... They would have to know that the slice that iterator.next gives back is not like safe to use, and they would have to copy the data out of it. You would probably have next bool error, and scan tree data. Yeah, that's what I've done so far. Oh, I see. So you would have next bool, right? So has next is the kind of, yeah, I was calling it has next. You're calling it next. I'm calling this thing. Yeah. I'm not sure. I could be convinced either way. Because I think just so many users of this thing, they just want a convenient way to get rows out as quickly as possible. They don't actually want to have to care. And that's like how we ended up in this situation, is that nobody cared. And I wonder whether the less caring way would be to have the caller allocate the slice or to have the iterator allocate the slice. And to do that, I think I would have to analyze again the usages of these things to check to see whether people like to copy these things around or what they like to do with it. Yeah. I guess I guess we'll try this. We'll try what you're saying for now. I think I like that. So we'll call the scan. I mean, I think next. I want to. Do I want to say has next? What if next returned bool and an error? That would be kind of cool. Then we wouldn't have to check both of these things. Let's try that out. Try that on for size. For loop is less concise. Yeah, you might be right about that. I mean, the thing is that I see. So I guess you're saying that you could have next always return false if there was an error. So then somebody could check for the error at the end. I guess one nice thing about having next have to return the error is that it makes it impossible to forget to check the error, which, by the way, that's a very easy thing to forget to do. I think we've had bugs in our code or like random helper code in the past, like little load tester things that we're using database SQL. It's very easy to forget to do. Yeah, forget rows.close. Yeah, it's real trouble. For that, you have to like pass in closures, but I don't think I want to do that. I mean, in certain cases, like it's probably fine to auto close if the caller is the one to allocate the slice. Because if you reach the end, then I think you could probably just deallocate all of your resources and nobody would be the wiser, probably. Anyway, I'm gonna try this next bool error thing just to give it a shot, and we'll see kind of what that looks like as well. So we'll say for okay error is equal to it dot next, error is not equal to nil, and okay. Yeah, it's a little gross, but it's not. I mean, it's not that bad. Go is like gonna be kind of gross no matter what we do. Then I guess we have to re-invoke it, which is always fun. And then at the end, oh, but no, we have to declare the error up here too, don't we? Something like that. Return nil s.server error. Error. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely for sure gross. Yeah, our users are our developers in CockroachDB, or our contributors. So I don't know. People are just going to search for examples within the single code base. So I think it's probably fine. This is why separate next and error can be an advantage. Yeah, I guess for like declaring these variables, not just random users, definitely not just random users. Yeah, we do have that in our advantage. The users are just going to be using their regular old database drivers, their Postgres drivers, their CockroachDB drivers, whatever it is. They don't have to mess with this stuff. Thank God. That would be really sad for them. Okay, so right, in this particular thing, what is it gonna look like? Let's just copy this in and mangle it until it works. And then maybe if we're really lucky by the end of this stream, I can do some kind of like epic Vim macro like I was doing the other time and have it just convert everything to the new interface. Probably not, but hey. So scanner.scan. What is this scanner thing? This is some like bespoke little baby scanner thing. What does it do? It returns a result scanner and sets column name to IDX to something. Do we use this? Where do we use this scanner? We don't. So it's just a way to populate this row, which is what we're about to provide in an easier way. So that's kind of a win. So we'll say it.scan row. What is this column name about? Scan scans the column with the given name. Oh, it scans a single column into dest. Oh, wild. Okay, that is kind of that is kind of weird. So I guess this is because they're using this weird show tables from thing that doesn't have obvious column names in the query, so they're not sure what it's going to return. I think this is kind of an anti-pattern that we would like to fix. Oh, yeah, I picked a bad example. I guess I picked a realistic example, but it's bad. We really shouldn't use these show things internally because they don't have concrete column names. It means that if we were to ever change the output of show by adding columns to it, anything that assumed the length of it would kind of break. And I guess that's what this scanner thing is trying to get around. It doesn't assume the length. It uses sort of this way to check the name and ask for just a single value from the name. But you know what I'm going to do to get around that is I'm going to mangle this query a little bit. I'm going to say select schema name, comma, table name from, and then I can pass in this kind of wacky square bracket syntax, and I think that that's going to do what I want. And then I don't have to mess around with this scanner stuff. So now we know concretely that we're going to get schema name and table name back. And so then row can be var row. I'll say row is equal to make tree.datums, and then I know that there's going to be 2 of these things every time. And so I'll pass in it.scan row. And does this thing return an error? It doesn't. Should it? I'm not positive. It probably should. There's probably like a reason why it should. But then again, like if we're always making sure that our consumers are checking these errors and not calling scan if there was an error, then I guess maybe it's fine, and we could just have this thing panic if there was an error state or something, just to like help the user of this thing not screw up and not forget to check those errors. Let's try that out. Okay, so that's very simple, right? The only thing is that now we're going to have to change consumers that expect an actual Golang data type to have to look at a, oh wow. Okay, so this result scanner thing is way more complicated than I thought. It actually is doing this work that I was just talking about of changing the CockroachDB internal data types into Golang native data types. Another transformation that we've implemented probably 5 times in different parts of the code base to differing degrees of success would be my guess. Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I guess I would personally prefer to see that go away because it's just so easy to screw it up. So I sort of want to say that the user here should say, yeah, I mean, the other problem is that we're going to have to do this length indexing business. We have to, instead of being able to nicely refer to schema name here, we'll have to say row of 0. So maybe I'm literally just making everything worse by de-implementing this little result scanner thing that was created for this special use case. I don't know. Well, so what we would do if we sort of knew that this was a datum and we weren't messing with this result scanner thing, is we could say tree.mustBe dstring, I think, and that takes in datum. We could say string is equal to, so we could say schema name is equal to tree.mustBe dstring. This is unhappy with me. Why? Shouldn't be. This should be fine. Cannot use must be dstring as type string. Oh yeah. Oh, I see. It's because I've already defined this up here. I can get rid of that. Then I could just say if schema name is not equal to public. I think that works because dstring is just an alias for string in this particular case. We get rid of this. And then for this user, we do the same thing. We grab the table name of row of 1 and we get rid of this scan thing and we say resp.tablenames is equal to append resp.tablenames table name. Is that working? What is this guy? This is a protobuf, so it has to be a string. So I guess I have to cast it. because this is like a D string right now. Okay, so that kind of works. Is that any better though? Like, it's really quite unclear to me. It does kind of have the nice property that it is an iterator, so like that's a win. We do have to make sure that that happens no matter what. And I guess theoretically, we could still use the result scanner on row. So maybe it's sort of fine. We could change result scanner to take in, instead of calls, which I think right now, what is calls? Calls is a SQL-based result columns. Oh, that's actually conveniently what we're already going to return from our new interface. So maybe it actually would be fine to teach the result scanner to just operate over this iterator instead of operating over the sort of rows slice that we had before. That's a possibility. I think that this is pretty nice though. Let's take a look at one other use case that doesn't use this query with calls thing, that doesn't have this kind of result scanner pattern built in, because I don't want to make sure, I just sort of want to make sure that it's good for those people too. So let's take a look. I think these guys always use query with calls or whatever, query with calls. So I guess we're going to want to look for the query X users to see what they're doing. Let's take a look at this one. So this is saying, this is a perfect example, by the way, of why streaming is kind of important. If you had, this query is saying select username from system.users with no where clause. So if you had theoretically some system that had, you know, tens of thousands of users or something, not that that's like particularly common or likely, this current code would have to read all the usernames into RAM at once. And if there was a lot of these things happening at once, you might be really sad. You would definitely be really sad. So I think this is great. And of course, I mean, as I say that, I'm realizing that the result of this thing is also not streaming. So like maybe I take it back, that this won't really help. But just as an example, I think often the streaming quality will propagate downwards, or at least it'll give the capability for users of this internal executor to implement their own streaming. So that being said, let's say what would happen if we converted query X to use this query iterator pattern. Our rows would no longer be something that we can iterate over. It's now an iterator, so we would have to say, first we would have to make a row slice. Yeah, I don't know if I really like that, you know? I don't really know if I like that much at all. So we would say make tree.datums, comma 1. We would say for, and of course, like this is such a like finger twister, for error, comma, for okay, comma, error. Nope, you also have to pre-declare it. So you say var okay bool, var error, for okay error is equal to rows dot next. Error is not equal to nil and okay. Okay, error is equal to rows dot next. I don't know. Then down here you have to say if error is not equal to nil, return nil error. So if we did that, then yeah, so in this particular case, we're already using the pattern of this tree.mustBeD string thing. So we don't actually have to worry about doing any kind of type conversion business. So I'm happy with that. Overall, I don't know. I mean, I think this is actually pretty good. What's wrong with this? Is this just like a giant file that's being really slow to, no, I've already declared it up here, I see. Okay, so I like this. That was a lot of analysis of what people are doing with this interface, and why don't we go ahead and actually start making it now? Because that's gonna be a little bit more fun and exciting and probably challenging. So I think what I'm gonna do for this, because I sort of did something rash that I was talking about earlier, which is that I changed all of the users, all of the implementations of the old query methods to return channels and stuff. And I think, unfortunately, what we'll probably want to do is provide this interface on its own separately so people can migrate at will instead of having to do it all at once. So I'm sort of just, well, the problem is then we're really gonna have these two parallel implementations sitting around because it's really just gonna be so difficult to clone all this stuff. So realistically, maybe I should just change everything at once and kind of just YOLO it. And maybe that would be a good idea. I don't know. So let's take a look at what this exec internal thing does. This is sort of where the actual meat is, which is maybe the moment. Maybe I should have sort of front-loaded looking at this because it's a bit more exciting, but that's okay. This is kind of the meat of this internal interface thing. It does a bunch of setup. It parses the query here. It sets up all of these callbacks. And the crazy thing about this interface, by the way, you guys, is that it actually is going to act like a pgwire client, in that when it does stuff, this is what I'm talking about here. When it does stuff, it's actually pushing pgwire commands into a buffer that the very same executor that we use for real network connections is using. So when we say statement buff.push exec statement here, this is actually like pretty much the same from the perspective of the code that interprets this stuff as an actual pgwire connection pushing an exec statement command. And same with bind statement, same with exec portal, same with sync. And that's like, it's powerful, but it's also a bit like, I don't know, tricky to use properly, at least the way it's set up right now. And this is kind of what I did ahead of time, which is that I kind of checked the statement type here. And if it was rows, so there's a couple of different kinds of statements in SQL. A rows statement type is something that returns rows. That's probably pretty self-explanatory. But if we don't have a rows thing, then we don't have to mess with this channel iterator business, and you can sort of just quit early. I might have like screwed it up though. I'm not exactly sure. Like, for example, if you actually start up this hacked binary that I have right now, everything just hangs. And it's because like people are like waiting on channels and something's like sort of broken. So I don't know. I think what I want to do is probably just implement the new interface that I've defined using this sort of implementation, and just kind of see what happens, I guess. Maybe we can write some tests for it or something like that. So yeah, let's just get started. So we have to, first of all, make an implementation of our new rows iterator thing, or what did we call it? Internal rows. So let's grab this, go back over to internal executor, or whatever it's called, internal.go. And we'll say type rows iterator struct, and then we can magically generate the interface implementation for this thing, internal rows. That's a really bad name, but we can fix it. And so what we're gonna do is ultimately somehow return one of these things. And I guess what we want to probably do is just change query internal to return one of these things, rather than sort of this weird channel result columns business that I've done. Which I guess in turn involves changing exec internal. Yeah, so there is one other complication that I forgot about, which is that query and execute are two sort of distinct concepts. And we currently jam them together into one big same concept. Since execute doesn't really return rows, it sort of has different properties. It returns something called like the number of rows changed. And I do think that people probably query that from time to time, which is sort of sad. Do they actually query that? I kind of hope not. What happens when we call exec? Exec, what is this? Oh, it does, of course. Okay, so this thing actually does return this integer, which is the number of things affected, and we will actually have to figure out how to return that properly given all of this constraint, which is a bit of a pain. I don't know, you guys. Okay, so maybe what I'll have to do is split up the implementation of exec internal into two parts, something like that. Or, you know, the other option is that I could just return, if it's a exec thing, I'll just have the internal contract that exec internal returns an iterator with a single column integer that you can use to query the number of rows affected. Maybe that'll be an easier way to do it. Okay, so why don't we let's just go wild. What is this result thing? Let's just change all this stuff to be returning our new interface, and just see what breaks. So this is going to be our what did I call it? Internal rows. No, I called it rows iterator. You two enjoy the YOLO approach? Yeah. It's why not, right? Panic-driven development. Somebody coined panic-driven development in this stream a couple of times ago, and I like that as well. Okay, so when I return this, I can just start returning nil everywhere. This probably wants to be a pointer. Whoops. Okay, so I'm returning nil instead of result. Big progress. There's a lot of talking and not a lot of progress, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a bit intimidated by this prospect right now. The interface design was fun and easy. Okay, so then down here, we're gonna return this new thing, which is rows iterator. And we're gonna have to populate it with stuff. And we don't have anything to populate it with yet. So the question is, do we want to kind of use a channel for this, or do we want this thing? We kind of have to. That's sort of the sad truth, is that this iterator is not going to be able to reach in to the internal executor and next it. That's just not how things are going to work. So this thing does actually have to have a channel. So let's give it a channel to start off with. We'll just call it rows. It'll be a chan of tree.datums. And I guess this thing also is going to have an error, maybe. And I wonder whether we need to like protect all this stuff behind like some synchronization. We probably do. Maybe we just want to give this an error channel, like I was thinking before, and we can just handle the complexity of checking all of these things within the implementation of rows iterator. I think that'll be probably fine. And then we also have this result columns thing. This stays static. It's in the beginning. So I think, whoops, result columns. I think that this thing doesn't need to be synchronized whatsoever. So that's cool. Types can return r.result calls. This also has to be probably a pointer receiver thing. Probably. I guess not strictly, but whatever. So, I mean, fundamentally what this thing is going to do is it's going to, if you call next, it needs to check a couple of things. Is the rows channel closed? If so, that means that we're finished. If there is an error on the channel, do we have to check kind of, here's another option. Maybe what we want to do is have a single channel with both the error and the datums inside of it. This is yet another example of things that we've thought about before in different parts of the code base. Having a single channel might have some advantages because we won't have to check two, and checking two is just more annoying than checking one, right? Why don't we try that? We're gonna just call this cha for channel, which is the kind of thing that people like to do in Go, and we're gonna call this a kind of, I don't know, result thing. Call it a result. I think we already used that term somewhere. Row or error. Let's just call it row or error. And it's literally going to be something that's got both an error and datums. See what that gives us. So this channel is going to be a channel of row or error. And TFW no sum types, my dude. Yes, absolutely true. Oh, I think this also needs to have the last row tree.datums, right? Yeah, I think so. And this again begs the question of like, why are we even bothering with the caller having the container thing? I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused about whether the caller should have the row or not. I feel lost about that. It has to do with whether we need to implement this close thing ourselves or not, you know? You get to the end, you could close yourself only if you got to the end here and next, you could, I think it's probably, I think this is fine. I don't exactly know. Rust spoiled me bit for side project, but I love both languages. Man, I have not learned Rust yet. I did like a little project in it one time, like a really long time ago before Rust like got mature, I want to say. I feel like it's changed a lot in the last like several years, 3 years. I don't know if you guys played the Zachtronics games at all, but I played this TIS 100 or 1000 one time, which was really fun. And TIS 100 has like a really simple like ASM thing, like really simple. And I think I wrote like a TIS 100 interpreter in Rust or something like that. Forcing yourself to learn Rust by hacking on that TPCE thing. I did interpreterbook.com and it's SQL and Rust instead of Go. Highly recommend both books. Yeah. I've heard good things about the interpreter book. Is that the Nystrom dude or whatever? Wait. Oh, this is a different one. There's two interpreter books. I have this interpreter book, that particular one, and I thought I liked it. You think it's excellent? I liked it. I also really like crafting interpreters. I think this one's really good too. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's pretty sweet. Bob Nystrom. They're both good. They both have different things, but yeah, this one's also free. Anyway, okay, so when we next this thing, we kind of have to do a couple things. We have to check to see whether the channel's closed. We have to pull something from the channel if it's not closed. So we'll say r is equal to, and oh, you know, what's also really annoying is that we have to have some kind of other channel in this, like a context. So probably this next has to take a context to either that, or when we create the iterator has to take a context. I'm gonna wanna say that the next has to take the context, just because that's gonna be easier to think about. So we'll have to do a select, because we don't wanna accidentally freeze on this thing forever, which would be a major problem. So if we get a row back from the result from the r.channel, we do something. Otherwise, if we get something back from context.done, we're gonna return, whoops, that's not a curly brace. I don't know what's the deal with the asymmetry between case and like other things in languages. I don't know, I guess that came from C probably, but I find it kind of weird. So if we get context.done, I think we need to return the context.error. That would be my guess. So we'll return false context.error. Yeah. So then over here, we're gonna say if r.error is not equal to nil, return false r.error. And then I guess we also have to, how does Go do closed channels again? It's like, this is gonna be nil if it's closed, right? Is that how it works? I can't really remember. Go closed channel. Pretty sure it just returns nil. But I think the ROK thing makes it non-blocking, right? Which I don't think I want. Isn't this non-blocking? Am I crazy? It still blocks? What is the non-blocking thing about? Oh, that's if you have a default case. Right. The default is not what we want. So if not okay, then we're gonna return false nil. And then otherwise, presumably we have to have a last.row. I think it's like if r dot row is equal to nil, this is sort of like an invalid state, and we'll say, well, we'll return an error because we don't want to be bad and mean and panic our whole database. We'll return false. Errors dot, how do we do this again? There's some kind of assertion error f thing that we have. Assertion error, assertion failed f. I think you do want to check not okay in case r is nil. Yeah, that's a great point. So if this thing is nil, we're gonna say, we're gonna kind of say invalid state, empty row or error. And that's fine. Do I not have how do I get a non-F version of this? Isn't there a way? New assertion error. Maybe there's just no way to do a non-F version. That's fine. I'll just pass no format things. And then I guess we're just gonna say our r.lastRow. Okay, and now I have to rename this. Can't have it be r, and also have it be r in the name of the receiver. So we'll say, what the heck is a good letter for this thing? We'll just call it row or error. How about? The perils of single letter variable names is that you can't easily search for them. So then we'll say r.lastRow is equal to row or error dot row. And then I guess we return true nil. Okay, so that's our super dumb, simple next implementation that I have no idea if it'll really work or not. But that's fine. Now, how do we hook this thing up to our internal executor? That's the next question. Back over here, when we return this exec internal thing, down at the bottom, we do already have this channel set up for the rows. We have a bunch of nasty stuff in here, to be honest, because even getting back the column type information is asynchronous from the perspective of the person who calls this because of the way that the protocol works. The protocol is listening and waiting for the server to give back, to like parse the query, analyze it, and figure out what the column types that it's going to return are. So right now we have this really janky columns callback thing that sends the result column information back on a channel. I don't know if that's like really legit. I feel like it's probably gross. And realistically, it also means that our implementation of, oh, you know what I think I actually did here is I just had it not return until it got that first information from the, sorry, I'm like lost in my tabs here, from the server. So like we wait until we get the column information before we even return the iterator. I think that's kind of nice because then the iterator doesn't have to worry about waiting for this stuff. And it also has this error channel, I guess. Let's like fix this to not be so crappy now that we have this rows or error thing set up. Although I guess now we have to sort of elevate that type to be something that this thing can see because it's in a different package, which is a little bit sad. Quite sad. Oh wait, is it in a different package? I got confused. No, I think it is. I think it's in the same package. Rows or error. Isn't that a thing? Where did I put that? This is like major problems with like too many. How is row or error? Major problems with way too many browser tabs in this thing. Okay, so it's literally in the same file, and I was just like being crazy. Cool. Thank you, Goland, for browser spinning me. Okay. Row or error is in fact in this very same file. Okay, that's good. Good to know, good to know, good to know. Okay, so over here, instead of making this weird double channel thing, I'm just gonna make a single channel. It'll be a chan of row or error. I don't know what the size of this thing should be. because it's all going to be async. Like people are going to be pushing into this thing. I don't know how much space you really need, but I'm just going to use 32 at complete random. And this is kind of where we're at in terms of this sync. Okay, so this sync callback business, this actually gets invoked every time that the server gets a message from the client to quote unquote synchronize the connection with results. I think the idea is that if we actually go over here and look at, I think it literally is in that same file. Down here, no matter what we do, we're either sending exec statement or prepare statement, bind statement, exec portal. But no matter what, after we do that, we run this sync thing. And I think after the server receives this sync thing, that's when this sync callback thing gets invoked. Sync callback. So the idea, theoretically, is that at this point, we won't have all the results, but we're sort of like, we know something. It's like a synchronization point, essentially. I find it kind of confusing because I think that the thing that gets passed into it is also theoretically multiple of these other res with pose things. I think the idea is that if you were to send a SQL query with multiple commands inside, it would give back multiple results. But I also think that that doesn't work. I think that this for loop here is sort of like aspirational. I don't know if you've heard of an aspirational for loop, but I'm pretty sure that that's what this thing is. In other words, like the length of results here is always equal to 1. In fact, I'm just gonna put a little panic here just to make sure that my understanding is correct. So I'll say if len results is greater than 1, I'll just say panic. My assumption was violated. And then here, I think instead of having this result loop, we'll just say result is equal to results of 0. Get rid of that. So that's just going to make things a little bit simpler. So what's this about? If we get an error from this result, it means that something went wrong that doesn't really have to do with the query, I'm pretty sure. So we can send on our channel a row or error containing this res.error thing. And I think this is also supposed to be if I've reached the, what is this? Res post will be set to the position of the command that represents the statement we care about before that command is sent for execution. So I guess the idea here is that if somebody sends multiple things, which again, I think is impossible for other reasons, we're gonna wait until we've gotten enough results back from the server to know that we're finished processing what the client expected. I think that, again, this is moot, but that's okay. So the question is, at this point, did we get back all of the data yet or not? That I don't really remember in the protocol what it means to have to get back a sync result. Let's actually just quickly go to see who calls this sync callback thing and when, just so I can kind of try to remember. Internal client com sync blah blah blah. So who calls this and when? Create sync result. This is the thing that does it. And who calls create sync result? So this is the, by the way, where I'm at right now, this is the loop inside the server that's checking these protocol commands and doing different actions depending on which command it gets. And if I get a sync command, the idea is that I make a result for sync, which in this particular case calls that callback. And it says, note that the sync result will flush results to the network connection. I'm pretty sure at this point, it means that we are definitely finished sending stuff to the network, because we wouldn't have processed this until we were finished. So I think that's why back over here, I've closed this error channel thing that I used to have, because I know that by the time that this callback gets called, I am sort of good to go in a sense. So I think that that's like safe. And I'll just go ahead and close it. Why not? Close the channel, return. In this case, I guess there was some error, so I'm going to send it as well over this channel. It's an assertion error, row or error. Error is equal to this guy. Okay. So here's my error callback. So this, I guess, is called as soon as the server hits some kind of other error. And I'll do the same thing. I'll say channel send row or error. Error is equal to error. And then I can close my channel at this point as well, maybe. Not positive about that. If I get an error back, do I ever send anything again? I don't know. So here's this other little channel that I did because even getting back the result columns is sort of like an asynchronous operation. Fine, okay, so now I guess this is where I need to go change a bunch of stuff. So this is my actual meaty internal executor implementation thing, and this is gonna now take a chan of error, row or error. Change this one too. Row or error. I think I plumbed this channel all deep into the system. And then here, this is actually when somebody is, oh yeah, by the way, this was this buffered command result guy that is no longer really going to be buffered at all. I should change the name of it at some point. I'm going to be sending a copy of the actual row that we're getting back, since this container is going to get reused here. Again, it's iterators on iterators all the way down, but I'm going to be sending a row or error with a row of row copy. And I think that that is good. That is good. I guess at this point, by the way, we should also probably select, because you could conceivably have a case where this channel got filled and then somebody cancels the context, and you would still want to be able to quit. So we'll say case context dot done. We'll say return context dot error, just to make sure we don't like block here forever if something bad happens. Cool, okay, so let's jump all the way back up then. And this is this. Okay, jump all the way back up to here. And the big annoying problem is that, I mean, it's gonna be really hard to test this until I like change all of these different call sites, which is a little bit scary and sad, but I wonder if I can somehow hack it to have the old call sites panic, and I'll just fix the ones that are used at startup until it works. Maybe that would be the approach. I'll try that, I think. So, okay, so what do I need to fix next? Next is that I actually have to construct this iterator thing with all of my things. If parse.ast.saveandtype is equal to rows. Oh yeah, okay, so here's the thing. This is this kind of frustrating thing, which is that if I have a user that is using the execute type of thing instead of the query type of thing, I need to give back the number of rows affected. So I think what I have to do here is have an else. If it's not equal to rows, then I'm going to construct a fake row that contains the number of rows affected. So I can do that in a second. First, I sort of want to see, let's see. So if it is rows, we wait until we get this calls channel thing back, or until we get an error. I don't know about that. I think I'm going to also put in the context to wait on case context dot error done rather. Return nil context dot error. So if this is the case, we're all ready to return, so we can return our new rows iterator. I guess we should probably make a constructor for this thing at some point, but for now we'll just fill out the fields by hand. So the channel will be our channel that we made earlier. And the result columns will be these calls here. Calls, plural. This has to be a pointer. And we have to return nil for the error. We don't need an else here, right? Because we're going to do other stuff. We're just returning. Otherwise, there's this like wait group business. I don't know. It's kind of a mess. It's there's a lot of messy stuff going on. But I think in this case, what we want to do is we want to return a rows iterator that has a fresh fake result columns thing that we make up right now. Thanks for the follow, edx null. We want to make sort of this fake result columns guy. Result calls is equal to SQL-based result columns, which is, this is just a slice, and it'll have result column, which has a name, a type. I think we really just want to fill in the name and the type, and it'll be an integer. So name is going to be rows affected or something. This might like not really work, but we'll see. And the type is going to be types dot integer. Types dot int. What do we call it? Oh, is this like the wrong? There we go. Well, why is that being weird to me? Tell me why that's weird. Why is it weird? Is it just the auto-completion getting a little bit confused? Probably. Cool. So we have our result columns, and we're going to return this iterator. Oh, and we also have to make a little fake channel and stuff, I guess. So we'll say, I guess we'll say like rows. This is kind of weird. We're going to send on the channel our own little result of rows or error, row or error, and our row is going to be tree.datums of, and we're going to pass in the number of rows that we have affected. So we'll say tree.new dint, which gives us a new sort of integer datum, dint of rows affected. I don't really know if this is going to work that well. To be honest, what's wrong here? This is cannot use type int, is type dint, right? I have to cast it. Dint. All right. And then we return rows iterator. The channel is going to be the channel. I feel like this is definitely going to have problems. Like if we sent too many errors on this or something, like it might blow up. I don't know. We're going to return this channel. Then we're going to return result calls, being result calls. And then nil, maybe? I don't know. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of stuff right now, to be honest. But that's okay. Okay, so what else doesn't compile at this point? Right, well, we didn't actually plumb through getting this iterator back out of the query iterator method. So that's what I'm going to do next. Exec internal. I mean, all of the callers of this should be really confused right now because it's giving back stuff that doesn't really make any sense anymore. So query internal is going to get back. It'll return this iterator error thing. I guess we have to probably just return it nil. I guess we can just return ie.execInternal and change the interface of this guy. So it's going to be, it's going to return this exact same guy. Yes, and then all the users of this are also going to be super confused because I just changed what it does. So this is the one that I think I would like to just sort of panic on. Don't use this, and we'll just keep fighting panics until we find something that kind of works. I don't know. It's questionable. It's questionable, but we're gonna try it. So that's all of the users of query internal, except for the one that we're going to add in a second. And then exec internal, I think, has the same problem. Or rather, exec x, the users of exec internal. I think for this one, what we want to do is we want to use the iterator like a user would. So So we want to say, we want to do that same loop. I guess we'll call this it. We'll say var, okay, cool, for, okay, error is equal to it dot next context. Okay, and error is not equal to nil. Okay, error is equal to it dot next again. That's like ugly. That's such a word, but I don't know. I don't know. And I guess in this case, we actually only expect one thing to come out. So really, we could probably like delegate this to like a query one thing or something, but I guess that's okay. Just to get this to work, what we'll do is we'll say if error is not no, return 0 error, and we'll say var int rows affected. Whoops, this is not how we write Go. We'll say it dot scan. We're gonna say it's gross, man, but I think it's worth it. It's like pain that we have to go through. If you want to have an iterator pattern, you're gonna have some pain. I think that's just how things work. So we'll scan our rows, and we'll say rows affected is equal to tree.must be dint rows of 0. Int. Yeah, I mean, this is, weird, I think. It's not really great, but then we can just say return rows affected. Nil. Error. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so that's, yeah, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Guess we don't need this okay thing. It's not so bad. So we'll do this. And I guess we also want to make sure that we got at least one thing. Var found a row, bool, found a row equals true. If not found a row, return 0, new assertion error F or whatever, assertion, since assertion failed F. Guess we also have to check, okay, so we'll do assertion failed, new assertion error with wrapped or something, new assertion, what is that called? With the wrapped error F. Man, that's a mouthful. It'll take an error and it'll be like, unexpectedly found no rows affected row. I guess we'll check the error first, because otherwise we'll just get this randomly on every thing that doesn't have, that has like an ordinary error, rather. So if error is not equal to nil, return 0. Okay, cool. Very good. We've got our exec X thing. Now we just have to add the actual query iterator interface thing, which should be really, really straightforward. We'll just call return IE.queryInternal. And I think we just pass in all of our arguments, op name, txn session, statement, qargs. qargs with a G, not with a T. Okay, what's the matter with you? I think I probably changed the interface without changing, or the implementation without changing the interface. This thing now takes a context. Got dot context so it can check for cancellation. Cool. Okay, so this is some progress. Now I think what we could do is probably compile this and watch everything completely go to shit. That'll be fun. Let's do it. Yeah. Man, it is such a nice day out though, I have to say. It's really warm. Where is it where you guys are? Is it warm? Is it hot? I heard in DC it was 80. I'm in New York. It's not 80 today, but it's pretty warm. I'm a little bit nervous for summer. Spending so much time indoors, need to have good air conditioning. Used to having an office for air conditioning purposes. And without that, I'm a bit concerned that it's going to be difficult to have a comfortable space in the summer. 65 degrees. That is nice. A good temperature. $11 degrees in France right now. So let's see. That's what, like 40 something Fahrenheit. I'm just not a Celsius guy. Okay, so what did I do? Not enough calls. Oh yeah, so I did change a couple of like random users here that I guess I have to go and fix. But just like 3 of them I changed. This thing has to take a context. Is that the only thing I changed? Probably. And then I had some guy over here. Does not take a context. Okay, try again. Okay, maybe I only changed one of them or something? Oh, I see. That's so annoying. So since we have this like rows.next thing sort of stuttered in our for loop, we actually have to pass in context twice as well, which I probably didn't do in the other one either. I don't know. Go does need sort of some kind of better iterator interface. They're not wrong. I think that's one of like the Go principles too. It's like don't repeat, don't stutter. I find that kind of ridiculous, guys. Can we talk about that for a second? Like one of the principles is like name your packages so that you don't re-say a word. You don't want to have a iterator package with an iterator struct, and then you have to say iterator.iterator. And at the same time, Go is like the most verbose language ever. You're constantly saying if error not equal to nil. You're constantly redoing little loops. I don't know, I think that's hypocritical. This is probably why Database SQL has separate. Thanks for the follow, MHDBS. Probably why Database SQL has separate next and error, no winning. Yeah, there is no winning. I think the true winning would be to just somehow slam everything into a channel that was just really easy to use somehow. But I think that, I mean, right, the whole problem is that they're not easy to use, so it's not really winning. I think that the linker takes forever now. I don't know about you guys. Like, what Go projects do you work on? How long does it take to link your Go project? How big is your Go binary that comes out when you link it? This database has gotten so fat that the linker just takes forever, dude. Forever. Channels and APIs are a mistake. Adding a channel API and it feels weird. Yeah. Because the semantics of channels are so specific, so dependent on like what you're actually doing. Dude, I feel like something changed really recently about how big this, what did I do? LSL cockroach dash short. Oh, there's no dash. All right, 177 megs, my dudes. That's a big ass binary. 1.15 has a new linker. Yeah, my friend did a great analysis on this, by the way. Let me show this to you. It's so good. It's called analyzing binary size in Golang or something. They reposted it to Cockroach Labs blog, but it's also on my friend Raphael's personal blog, which I think is a cool looking blog. But this is just a great article. If you care about this stuff, I don't know when the last time it was updated though. I guess it was a bit out of date at this point. They maybe didn't take into account the new linker or whatever. But what he found was that it's a lot of space taken up with these source maps essentially, so that you can interpret a stack trace into something that's human readable, I'm pretty sure. This like ln tab thing, ln tab, PC ln tab. Look how good this blog post is. I mean, it's just such a reference. PC ln tab, it's a line table is a data structure mapping program counters to line numbers. Yeah, so you can turn a stack trace that's like a machine sort of stack trace into something that tells you what line did your program crash on. So it's useful, but like it gets big if there's a lot of code, I guess. Anyway, okay, so what happens? What happens? This is just gonna panic immediately. Ready? Okay, well I didn't do it right. Cockroach short demo. What happens? Immediate panic. So I think my plan here is gonna be for all of the users that are actually important of this internal executor, I'm just going to convert them to the new API and wait until it stops panicking. They might strip that stuff in the new version, but how would they do stack traces? You've seen some blog posts about it from the Go team. Yeah, I do follow the Kaizo Mario streamers. I think that's my favorite gamer Twitch thing to watch. It's, I don't know, something about it. I find it pleasing to watch, entertaining, just kind of fun. I think I'm a big fan of all of those people. Hey, no, you can come through. I share this apartment with multiple people, or one other person, my girlfriend. Anyway, so you've seen some blog posts about it for the Go team. Yeah. What can I say? I'm very curious to figure out how they're going to do that though, because it is. I mean, you have to have a stack trace that you can read, right? That's like important. So I'm not sure how they're going to fix it. Anyway, so speaking of stack traces, this is the dream. I can go and find the line number that this thing exploded on, right? So it's coming from server update.go 167. And this is really where I could use a little Vim macro, huh? Little automatic find and replace that does some really complicated stuff. Probably not gonna happen. Query row. Okay, so why? Oh, I see. So query row is actually something that we can easily implement ourselves on the new interface. That's nice because there's so many people who use query row to get a single row. We can just switch this over to use the iterator instead of the row at a time thing. So that's going to be a good win. So we'll say ie.query iterator ctx op name txn session statement QR dot. We don't need to pass this as dot, do we? No, we don't. I wonder if the Go compiler kind of like doesn't care. You know how like with var args you can pass them as a var arg expanded thing or as an array like this? Like, does the Go compiler optimize that away? Is it equivalent for me to say qargs dot if I have a qargs that's var args as my input and I'm passing it as is to another var args input? I wonder what it does under the hood there. I guess we could use like Godbolt or something, but probably not going to do that. No, you totally can. No? I think you can. Look, I mean, I can use this thing as a... I mean, it makes sense that you can pass it both ways, right? Because like from the perspective of a method, if you have a var args input, it's going to look like an array. And then if I throw that as an array into... Oh, no, you're totally right. You're 100% right, because then it's going to take the array as the first argument of the var args thing. And it just works in this case because this is a var args of interface. Nope, you're completely right. I am completely wrong. Okay, so iterator error is equal to this. We'll say, and then I guess what we want to do is kind of copy that little pattern that we did before. Yeah, the compiler. We don't want to have to be our own compilers, right? So where did this go? Where did this go? It went over here. This is kind of the pattern that we want to copy. And we'll say, so in this case, we don't actually know the size. Oh, this is actually kind of problematic, I want to say, because we can't copy out. So let's give some context for a quick second. This is the method that runs a query, asserts that it has a single row, or maybe 0 rows. It asserts that it has either 0 or 1 rows, and returns it. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. We can just like construct a row on the fly with the length of the thing that we get back. It's a little bit inefficient, but I don't think I care, just because it's like just a single row. So we'll say, I guess we can make the container first or something. Var rows tree.datums, var row rather tree.datums. So we'll, oh, you know, this is quite problematic. Oh, no, it's not. We have the length of the columns. Okay, so we can say row is equal to make, you know, if row is equal to nil, row is equal to make tree.datums, len it dot types. So we do that, and then we say it dot scan row, and then we leave. Now down here, if we do get an error, we're going to return nil, comma, error. If we didn't find a row, we're going to return nil, nil. And if we got more than 1 row, which is going to happen here, I guess actually we can just say if row not equal to nil, then we can return this multiple results error thing. And then, yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna need to close these iterators, probably, so I don't know if I should do that now. Do we need them to be deferred or something? I don't know. It's a little bit scary. I don't know. Well, why not? We'll just say defer it.close and make sure that that thing doesn't panic. Currently no op. Oh, but it returns an error, so I can't just defer it. Do we need it to return an error? I feel like maybe we don't, because we're already checking this other error type thing. I don't know. So if we didn't find a row, we quit. If we did, we've scanned this thing, and then down here we can say we'll just return a row, comma nil. So that'll be a good win if this thing actually properly does work, because then all of the users of query row X will not fail at least. I think this will now compile again. Wait for a long, long linking cycle. I guess I could theoretically, write a test that does this, so I don't have to link the entire binary. That might be kind of a good idea. But realistically, I think that, I kind of think that I'm not going to do that, because the server startup is kind of the thing that we want to burn down. There's a lot of things that use this internal executor at server startup, and we want to make sure they work. Okay, what is this? Server update. Cannot use internal executor session data override literal as type string? What did I do? What did I do? Oh, I think I started editing this thing before I realized that it could actually be usable as just a regular old query row. So I'll leave that one alone and go again. How's your stream going, Matt, by the way? I think I saw you did one maybe yesterday or the day before. I didn't get a chance to tune in, but how is it going for you? Wednesday. Going well, planning to do another at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Super cool. I will try to tune in. Yeah, Link. Link, baby, Link. It's like the fattest Link command of all time. 21 CPU seconds. It's probably slower. You know, at a certain point, if I keep this up, I might think about just doing doing some kind of like sync business with my local directory source code onto some beefy compiling worker machine, because this is just going to get worse and worse, and it's sad to wait for so long. Okay, so this is progress. We found an actual user of QueryX that we need to fix. This is a little bit inefficient, not gonna lie. I wonder if I want to try to fix a bunch of these in batch or something. I don't know. This one we can fix. Query iterator. You've tried working over an SSH mount a few times. It works okay until you have to reboot the remote box and things get weird. Yeah, that seems like it might be trouble. It might just be a little bit awkward. Okay, so we've defined rows already up here as a, oh right, this is what I was messing with last time. Do we actually have to use this outside of the loop? We do. Okay, so we'll just call it a SQL utils.internal rows. So now we'll have to modify this range loop. Now this is kind of what I want to do in terms of making like some kind of macro that automatically changes this. I think this is actually a perfect example of when we could theoretically write an automatic macro to change this stuff, because this is just such a clear, obvious pattern that's used so many places. I mean, I wonder if I could literally just start off by searching for row is equal to range rows, because I feel like most of those would probably be this exact same thing. But I don't know. For now, we'll say for okay, error is equal to, I guess it has to be this kind of equal, rows dot next context. Okay, and error. Man, I'm so bad. I'm just like trying to even just remember it myself after I literally just wrote it is a struggle. It is awful. And then we just say row is equal to rows dot. Oh yeah, we have to make the row. Man, I'm still disappointed about that. I think it would be so much better if we could return the row. The iterator could manage its own memory. What would be the problems with that? The iterator managed its own memory. I feel like there wouldn't be any significant problems with that, to be honest. It would just be that if you were to copy that row yourself, you would have to remember to copy it, because the iterator is going to overwrite it. Yes, for sure you are correct. Because right now I'm just gonna have to say, you know, row is equal to make row datum tree.datums, comma len. And then I don't even know like how many things. It happens to be 2. And I just have this like gross constant here. Sean Washbod. That's a cool name. Thanks for the follow. Like this is nasty, dude. Make tree.datums, comma 2. What if, okay. I'm gonna do something wild and wacky, which is that I'm gonna add another interface method to this thing and implement them both for now, because I think that realistically there's gonna be no problems with it, perhaps. And if there are, I might as well find out now. Where is my implementation? For efficiency, it's best. Well, I mean, I don't think it's that bad though, because like the iterator is just going to allocate a single time, And it's unlikely that you're gonna be doing this iterator in a loop, I think. I don't know. I really don't know. Because here's the other thing, by the way, is that we already allocate this memory. That's the other crazy thing, is that there's already literally a row sitting here perfectly happy. That's what comes over this channel. It's just a ready, happy, regular old row that you could conceivably just consume. And we've already allocated that elsewhere in the system. So I feel like I don't buy the efficiency thing in this particular case. I don't know though. Cur tree.datum. So then I just return r.lastRow. Okay, so if I did that, and then I also have to implement it, right? Oh, I just did it. Okay, so over here, we get rid of this pattern. We can say rows equal to rows.cur. And then all of a sudden we have like really simple semantics, and we can just basically for loop replace this thing and add this error check at the end. That's critical. If error is not equal to nil, return error. But I think, I mean, you know, it's reasonable. It's not terrible. It's not super terrible. I'm trying to think if I can use, what test could I run that would like find this stuff without having to recompile the whole entire binary? Maybe just like, we have these things called logic tests, which essentially are a nice, easy way of testing SQL input and output. You write a query, you write some tables, and you can assert what their outputs are, all in a nice text format. That's what's so cool about it. You don't have to write a Go test, because we write these things so often, you guys, as database authors. It's so common that you want to assert what some SQL does. This is a really simple example of this text format. It's really, really nice. You say it's a query, you say how many columns is going to come out, you put the query, you put some dash line, and then the program automatically checks that the result here is the same. The result that the query actually returns is the same as the result that we expect. I really like this pattern of making little test DSLs. I think it's great. But in any case, I'm hoping that maybe it's possible that it would be faster to link this logic test thing than the entire database binary. But it kind of looks like it's also taking a while to link, so I don't know. There's probably even a lighter weight binary somewhere that we could run. The truth is though that like most of the heaviness of the binary is going to come from the server, like outer server wrapper thing, because it like imports everything. If you're a CockroachDB server, you have to import all of the components of CockroachDB. And I think what I'm trying to test right now is that server startup bit so I can get something working. So no matter what, I think I'm going to have to link all the servers together. So it's just going to be a bit slow. Sad, real sad. Do I wish that this was written in Rust? No, I don't. There's certain things about it that would be nice to write in Rust. I'll give you like one good example of something that would be really easier in Rust is the part of the execution engine that is sort of generic across multiple types. We've written this execution engine that operates on things in a columnar manner so that it doesn't use Go interfaces, because those are kind of slow if you're writing something that interprets something once per row, which is what the database kind of does otherwise. So what we did is we wrote some sort of hacky generics thing on top of Go that uses text templates to generate a bunch of code that pretty much looks the same for every type, so that at runtime you're doing concrete operations on concrete types and not, you know, generic method interface lookup things. And that was really awful. It kind of worked in the end, mostly, but it was really quite a painful experience. Now I'm wondering, maybe this is not, maybe it started to run but it just hung. So I'm just going to go back with my original approach of compiling the server. But realistically, you guys, this generic thing is like total hack. You mean casting such as with my item.string and whatnot? Yeah, exactly. Like one of the things, the way that we represent, codegen is needed for certain things. Yeah, it totally is. The way that we represent data inside of a row is this interface called tree.datum, which is implemented once for every type in the database. But the problem is that if you wanted to make something really efficient, you don't want to have to be constantly switching on the type of that data, which is what you have to do if you're not careful, which is kind of why we did code gen. Yeah, it's probably the optimal solution right now. It's pretty funny what we do. I'll show you an example. Of the distinct operator. Whoops. Yeah. So this is, we wrote this really hacky. I'm sure you guys have seen that joke that came up on Twitter or a blog or somewhere where that guy he used, instead of having like angle brackets like they do in C++ or whatever, he used like a fake Canadian angle bracket character or something. What was it, like the native like something glyph that sort of looks like a angle bracket but is actually not, and then they use that to do code gen somehow. We kind of did something not quite like that, but a little bit, which is that we have these Go files that are they sort of look like Go, but you have some like weird stuff from time to time that comes in, like all of these names with underscores and capital letters. These actually will get replaced by like text template pattern things like these. We still have to put the patterns sometimes in comments, which is really, really nasty, but in the case of simple things, we just kind of put them and they look like Go identifiers, and you can kind of program with them somewhat like Go identifiers. And then this thing gets it gets read in by this templater engine thing and outputs like a giant file, which has this .eg.go suffix that has like just a massive, it's essentially does this code once for every type in the database. So you can see, let's see, this one, for example, is the distinct bytes op, and it is just Go code that on the inside, it's very efficient. It doesn't have to do any type switches ever. It's using, native operations when it can. I guess bytes is kind of a bad example because there's like slices. We do have some like optimal byte stuff, but the really simple one, I guess, would be the distinct int operator, where we're operating on these like output call things, which is actually like a slice of bools, or call is actually a slice of int16s. And this is all done with that kind of wacky, hacked up text template code generator stuff. Anyway, it's pretty cool. We have some good blog posts on that one as well. I'm like half proud of that and half hate it. It was sort of one of my, like, I sort of started the project to do that, and where it ended up, I'm like, I don't know. I thought it could be better, and now it's a bit like scary essentially. But whatever. All right. Yeah, this is just not the optimal way because the cycle just takes so long. I feel like with OBS running, it's probably like the compiler is a little bit slower as well, so it's just taking extra forever. Okay, so where are we at? Query row. Oh, hey, this is actually something that's good because I think that this is failing under the thing that we just wrote. So this is like an actual use case that is not working properly, which means that we can debug our code instead of just finding and replacing things that are breaking for other reasons. So I'm excited about that. Let's take a look at executil.go 9.16. Okay, cool. So this is, what is this? This is golang fill query arguments. OBS can hog some serious CPU time. Glad my desktop is a Ryzen. Oh yeah, you bet. I am on a MacBook Pro, baby. Top of the line. Let me show off its specs. It's just like, I don't even know. It's probably just dying right now. It's got some memory, it's got some graphics, but it's just a little laptop. I want to get a desktop. That would really make my life a little bit easier. 9,800K at work. That sounds fancy. I don't know what it does, but it sounds like an expensive and good CPU. Okay, so what the heck is this stuff? Transforms the arg to the datums. The datums will be passed as type into the prepare. Okay, so what the heck is this? I think it probably means that, what does it mean? Unexpected type blah. What was the message? Type interface. Unexpected type slice of interface. Did I like pass a slice? Oh, you know what I bet this is, you guys? This is that thing we were just debating. I bet somewhere, instead of like re-expanding out the var args, I just pass in the slice of var args. And that's what is getting complained about. So where did I do that? It's right here. Okay, so query iterator, yeah, it doesn't re-expand the var args. That is terribly buggy. Desktop is the only way for me. Yeah. I've never lived that desktop life, to be honest. Like, I think the last time I had a desktop was like I was in middle school and used a iMac. Does that count as a desktop? I'm not really sure. I think it does, but it's definitely not your traditional like cool desktop. It's like your, you know, Mac world desktop thing. Yeah, I should probably get one of these. You know, to be perfectly honest, I've been on PC Parts Picker. You go to look at that thing and you're like, holy crap, there's so much I could learn, there's so much I could research. It's overwhelming. How much do I want to spend? That's another question. I don't know. It gets overwhelming real quick. So I haven't really acted on it, but I would like to. You've been working from home for 6 years and have had a desktop that whole time. That is pretty awesome, I have to say. I bet you're ahead of the curve because everybody right now is thinking, how can I work from home? How can I be effective? We're all working from home. You know what you're doing. You are an elite work from homer. Send you my pre-built PC. It's amazing. It's only about $1,000, but you need to buy your own GPU. Yeah, man, send it. Link it in the chat. Happy to give recommendations since you just did this 6 months back. Oh my gosh, just link all your PC part pickers. I'm curious. I want to know. Yeah, I think that I like working from home a lot. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. It's pretty nice. I have like a little layer in here now. I feel like maybe it's like when you don't work from home on the regular, your little setup is not as good as it is at work. So you don't want to be there. But if you got a good setup, you're going to be happy working from home. PCPartPicker.com. Let me pull this baby up. You miss the social aspects like getting a beer after work. It's all trade-offs. Yeah, 100%. 100%, man. The build is 1400. Cool. This looks dope. I wish I could like comment on this stuff, but I can't. I wish I could be like, ah, yes, the Corsair Vengeance LPX 32 gigs, like classic RAM module. I don't know. Oh man, we can have like a bake-off. Okay, cool. So we're back to running into basic problems with Query X. All right, let me check this baby out. Nice. The Corsair Dominator. The Dominator Platinum. That's amazing. You went overkill. Want my machines to last for 5 years. Super quiet. You don't hear the PC. That doesn't mean it doesn't get warm. It's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's about to be summer, you guys. That's just like my big concern. It's about to be summer. What's gonna happen? Looks fancy. Jay, do you have your own desktop stuff? Or are you like a laptop plebe like me? Ensure all tables. No, I do have AC in my apartment. It's just not it's not like nice AC in a sense. You know, at an office they've got like the high quality central air like mega AC, and at home it's like I've got window units, you know. Okay, so here. Now this is a double whammy because this query interface has been deprecated for some time. You're supposed to pass all this extra crap in. The internal executor session data override. I'm hoping I could just pass nil for that, but in any case. So we're gonna be passing SQL-based internal executor session data override. That's like the longest and worst thing I've ever seen. You've been working from home for about 3 years as well. I have a desktop. I keep moving back to the MacBook Pro. Get a little antsy if I'm at home for too many days in a row, so I like to go to coffee shop sometime. Best thing of all is the NVMe SSD. Yeah. That thing, I mean, the NVMEs, dude, that's where it's at. You need to have that. If you're a database, you want to have some NVMe SSDs. Sean, my problem is that, like, yeah, I love coffee shops too, but I got this espresso machine. And the espresso machine's great, but it means that, like, I don't want to waste money on coffees right now. So it's like, yes, it's a trade-off. It's all trade-offs, you guys, right? All right. Where did I do this last? I want to grab this baby here. You know, it'd be cool. It's interesting how folks have different preferences. For me, I cut my productivity in half or more if I'm not at this desk, so I never work at coffee shops or anything. Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's hard to look at a small screen. I do find that for me, sometimes if I'm like in a certain mood, or if I'm like tired maybe, or if I don't know what it is. Sometimes I just want to be like lying down on my back, working on my laptop on my stomach. Sometimes like I just can't get work done without that. I don't really like working at coffee shops though. I feel like we might want to just kind of try to fix all these at once, and then fix the call sites right above them that use the wrong query interface. How many of these are there? 39 matches. Used to go to the park and tether for a day a lot. I suppose really though I could just take more breaks. Yeah, that's a cool idea, working outside. I've never done that. I think that would be really distracting for me. Cause like, don't you want to watch the birds or something? You know, smell that fresh scented air. I think for me, I would want to do that. Okay, so let's see, run local SQL. That's like a new thing I've never seen. This one's query. I think we can like change a lot of these, but maybe not all of them. Oh, that's the wrong paste now. I'm gonna try to change a bunch of them in batch and see what happens. I think that doing, how come that didn't paste? What's going on? Oh, am I using, I think my Vim bindings on Goland, they don't like add things to the actual Mac clipboard. So there's like a little bit of an irritating interoperability problem there. Okay, and then it 8. This is really irritating. Really irritating. You get in the zone there? That's awesome. 4 row range rows. Okay. So let's go ahead and replace some of these. This one we just did do. So we're gonna skip that guy. Oh no, right, we did it, but no, we do want to replace this one. Okay, replace this guy. This one, on the other hand, this one should be replaced, yes. This guy should be replaced. I'm sure this is like really scintillating content right here. Really, really exciting to watch me click replace on a dialog box over and over again. This one seems good to do. Content, baby. We all about content here. What's this guy about? Should I just change all of them, you guys? Should I just like YOLO change them all? Would that be more fun? This thing should just be deleted. It's a comment. There's only 27. How bad could it be if I just changed all of them? I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, baby, let's go. Let's replace some usages. Okay, and now I think what we can do is we'll probably want to, you know, it'd be nice is if this editor, like it has this convenient thing, which is to jump to the next error in the current file, which I use constantly. I'm using that just like all over the place, but it doesn't have a way to jump to the next error in any file, as far as I know. And suddenly 30 compilers are now 300 compilers. You know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, do you guys know? Do you guys use this editor? Is there a way to like jump to next? What the heck is this? Get out of here. Is there a way to jump to the next error? This next highlighted error is the thing I use all the time. But what I want to do is like next any error in any file. There's no way to do that. I feel like there isn't. And now I don't remember like what I changed. I guess I can use git diff. Okay. So we'll start with this thing. Oh, and this is the one that we didn't want to change. Okay. Okay, that's fine. We can just undo it with this convenient undo button here. Okay. Command Z should undo it. No, we don't want to undo the whole thing. We don't want to undo the whole thing. We just want to undo that one guy. Okay. Then next up we have jobs registry. Okay, that guy, let me tell you about jobs registry, you guys. That thing is important, very important. So it's good that we're changing it. It's good, it's very, very, very good. Where do we get this rows slice from though in this case? We get it from up here. So we're gonna change this to say query iterator. It's gonna take statement. It's also gonna take in, it needs to take in this like empty BS SQL base dot internal executor session data override. I would like to make an alias that's just this, like empty struct of this. That would be probably pretty convenient for people. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll get around to it. Okay, so var bool, okay. And then, oh yeah, then I guess we really wanted to add one more thing to our copy paste thing, which is that we want to grab the row from our iterator. That's like a new thing. You can't just have it. You have to say rows.cur. And then at the end, you have to say, you have to do your little final. Man, I still, to this day, put the declarations in the wrong way. I'm stuck in C. I don't know why. What's wrong with me? At the end of this loop, we've got to say if error is not. This is going to be easy to forget. People are going to forget this all over the place. Oh, here we can just return error, and hopefully it'll be nil. Okay, so next one is over here. Okay, I've decided I'm already fed up with this long name thing. I'm going to make an alias, internal executor session data override. Oh wait, there already is one. Sick. Sick. I could just use it. SQL base.no user, no session data override. Easy. Okay, then we say rows equal to rows.cur. We say var okay bool. And then down here we say if error is not equal to nil, return error. Okay, I mean that's like a little pretty simple. Ooh, some people want the length of the rows. Well, that's just not gonna fly, my friends. You cannot know the size of your stuff. You can't. You just can't do it. So how are we gonna? Should we estimate it? Should we give it 1,000 since this is asking for limit 1,000? Why don't we do that? We'll just ask for 1,000. How often does this thing run? I don't know. We'll give it 1,000. It's fine. All right. Wait, toDelete.array. It's a, what the heck is this? Oh, I see. It's an array of datums of the IDs of the things we're deleted or something like that. All right. Fine. Waste memory or waste CPU time allocating it exactly. So irritating. It's so irritating. Okay, so in here we also have the same problem. We want to log how many jobs are we adopting. We don't know. We don't know. We can't tell you. We can't tell you. How bad is that? I feel like it's not that bad. Like probably nobody's. This is like an error. This is like an info log that gets only logged if our V level is at 3, which it just never is. So I'm just gonna delete it. Goodbye. All right, what's next? Protected timestamp storage. What is that about? I have no clue. Sounds important. Sounds important. I kind of know what this is about, but not really. Not really. Okay, so here we're gonna change to query iterator. Oh, this is one that I already tried to migrate. Gross. What is going on though? Do we only want one row out of this? Do we only want one row out of this? If so, we should be using the query one row. What did I do in my crappy change that I made yesterday? Yeah, so it literally just reads the first row from this thing. Okay, that's a great use case for query one row that we're gonna change it to. So we're gonna call query row X. This is gonna have row instead of rows. We don't need to mess around with anything now. It's a lot simpler. Cool. Do we need to do anything else? What is the query that it's sending? Protect query. Do we need to like limit it? You know, that's, what's the deal? 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 Why don't we have a limit 1 on this? I don't know. This is like black magic. I'm gonna leave it alone and hope it just doesn't break. If it does, we'll know really fast. Constraint stats report is next. Constraint stats report. Okay, so here we need to add our OK bool. We need to return error. And then we need to say row is equal to rows.cur. This is nice. You know, this is now feeling like more of a reasonable, rows.cur. This is feeling more of like a reasonable refactor loop than it was before. Query iterator. SQL base dot no session data override. The thing that slightly complicates it is that there's like multiple interfaces that people were using before that I have to kind of change, so it's like slightly different each time. A little bit annoying. Critical localities report. Wait, did I fix all of them here or just one of them? Yet another existing thing where I have to change that we were pre-allocating the number of results that we just cannot do anymore. I guess in this case, we don't have a hint. I don't know, man. We'll make 16. How about that? Is that a good number? Then we also have to say, we have to append now, I think, right? Previous version of key. Wait, what's going on here? What is going on here? What is a constraint report? Is this like a map? Oh, it's a map. Okay. I don't know. Map sizes, I don't know. Okay, cool. Next up, we've got our critical localities report. Whatever that may be. I think doing projects like this are fun. I don't know if you work on a large code base at work, something that makes you like refactor a whole bunch of crap that you never work with. It's kind of fun because it sort of shows you like, hey, here's all this other stuff that like other people at the company are probably working on that you are now learning about. I think it's kind of a cool way to at least touch the words, if not understand at all what's going on. At least you're getting familiar with that terminology so that you can understand and maybe in a meeting that you don't understand, like what are people talking about? Maybe now you know, something like that. I kind of like that. Pre-violations, I guess, is the query here. And we need to add in our SQL base dot no session data override. Okay, yet another instance of the same thing. 16 row is equal to rows dot cur and then return error. Did I do this for the last one? Did I properly return error at the bottom? I did. And of course, var okay bool. Alrighty. Alrighty, replication stats report. This one feels very similar. Whoever wrote these reports, I bet they were the same person. That's my guess. They all seem to fit a very similar pattern. Very similar pattern. SQL based on no session data override. Var okay bool. Return error down here. And then rows dot cur. Row is equal to rows dot cur. Cool. So I think we're done with these reports now, whatever they are. Now we can move on to the stuff in this file, admin.go. You know, yeah. It would be great to automate this. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I have it. Oh yeah, so this is the one that we tried to refactor before, where we were like concretely making the row size thing, which I kind of hate. So I'm gonna get rid of it. Row is equal to, we're calling this it instead of rows, which I guess is fine. I think we already kind of handled this one though. And what is this? This is, what the heck? Is this just like what I used to have here? I think so. Just delete it. That's what I refactored it from. Okay, so here, Here's our first example of another interesting thing, which is the kind of query that asks for the result columns of the query. I think we're fine because we thought about it ahead of time, but we're not going to take calls as an argument or a return parameter from this thing. We're going to get calls by asking the iterator for it. Cur.types, rows.types. Maybe types should be called calls and not types, probably. Okay. Then we just have to define our OK bool. And then down at the bottom of the loop, we have to return an error if we got one. Right. And then row is equal to rows.cur. I have a feeling that this file that I'm editing right now is like really, really big. Because my editor is acting pretty slow. Usually means that there's a big file. Okay, so here I'm supposed to say nil, comma, s.server error of error, I guess. Very same transformation here. Very same transformation. I guess I could maybe just do a find and replace in this file of query with calls. I'm gonna do that. Query with calls. Query iterator. Fix all those up at once. I think this is gonna be a faster way than whatever I was doing before. And then we can replace rows, comma, calls, comma, error with rows, comma, error. That fixes that one. Or does it? I didn't, oh, I see. I messed up and I shouldn't have changed the query row with calls. Because this one, I guess, is working just fine on its own. But this one, okay, well, this is kind of like a good example of where I should be using batch processing. In my own internal process. I should just do this one thing, which is to add var OK bool to all of these instances. I think that'll be easier. If I search rows.next and then just paste upwards, then I'll get this everywhere. And I could do it with a vim macro. In fact, I'm going to do that. That's going to be fun. Okay, so we're going to say QQ, search for rows.next, press P, go down, so I'm gonna hit the next one next time, and then hit Q. Then I think if I do at Q, okay, well I already did this one, so that doesn't count. But I think besides that, it should be working. Wait, maybe I already did all of them. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Okay, so I think I just needed to go down another line or something. At Q, at Q. I think that streaming is a good thing to do, or like stream refactoring rather is a good thing to do on stream, because it's like mindless enough where you can really talk and not have a problem concentrating at the same time, I want to say. Query X, I think I could replace with query iterator too. Replace query X with query iterator. Okay. And here we have the original place where we were experimenting with different interfaces, which is kind of funny. So I think for that one, we want to grab this little stanza that we were using. Okay, so this is a case where, oh wait, so let me finish fixing that rows 2 business first. I think down here I want this. I can replace rows 2 with rows. Okay. So we'll replace rows calls error with rows error. Except for in this case. Man, this is a disaster. This is like a giant messy ass refactor. Row is equal to rows.cur. That's the next thing I want to add to all of these things. So I'll do that with the macro too. So we're gonna qq rows.next p down q. And then I think if I hit at problem is I've already done it to like random ones. I didn't really do it holistically, but it works when I haven't done it. Look at this Vim macroing. It's great. Okay, maybe that's all of them now. Okay, and then in this case, I guess I have to also grab the calls out. So we'll say calls is equal to rows dot types. I think that's the main missing piece now, is I just have to keep changing things to maybe it's just like for streaming, you don't mess with the fancy camera. Maybe that's the moral of the story here. Don't mess with the fancy camera for the stream. Okay, what's going on with this? Rose calls is equal to. Why is this getting a little bit screwed up? It's because I already defined it up again above. Yeah, that's the one that I have actually. Yeah, you've been trying to tell yourself you don't need a capture card. I had this exact same experience, dude. Exactly the same experience, and I ended up buying one. I started with this like a little bit before COVID started, and then back then the capture cards were cheaper, and now they're expensive. I don't know. It's like pretty sad, to be honest. But I have this. It's this thing called AverMedia. AverMedia Live Gamer 2 Plus or something. It's not like the nice one that people have, the Elgato. But I don't think, well, I guess in your case, since you have a desktop, you could probably get one that like slots right into your computer, which is probably better. This is like a little external unit that works for me because I have a Mac. It works over USB, but I think some of the good capture cards are like you plug them into your motherboard or something, which would be cool. What is going on? Oh, I see. I didn't need to change any of this stuff. You got PCIe, but I want something that works on Linux and AFAK. I've got stuff is hit and miss. As far as I know, I could just say. Don't need to read the abbreviation out loud. This is weird. I don't know why that's there. I can just get rid of it because we are guaranteed to just get back one row here. Okay, so we're coming to the end, I believe. Row is equal to rows.cur. Elgato stuff is hit and miss. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you should, like this thing, I don't see it recommended that much because it's not like all fancy, but it works really well. And it doesn't have like 4K, but I'm like, do you need 4K? I don't know. AverMedia Live Gamer Portable. It also has cringe because it has gamer in the title. And you're like, why? Why does it have gamer in the title? It's just embarrassing. And it looks really cringe too. But hey, what can I say? It's hidden under a little thing and it works quite well. So 140 bucks. I think I got it for cheaper before COVID. But right now the cam links are like 400 bucks, which is like the Elgato one for cameras specifically. And before COVID, those were definitely cheaper. So I don't know. Anyway, so what's happening here? Here we just need to grab the calls from the iterator. Rows.types. Same with this one. Let's just grab that thing that we just did and copy and paste it when we need to. I think that theoretically, yeah. Theoretically, we might be coming to the end of this one file. Okay, so here's an example of where we don't know the length of the rows ahead of time and we have to make some kind of bad decision. So what are we doing here? We're saying we're making a bunch of responses. We don't know the length ahead of time. I mean, yeah, it's really troublesome because to do pagination, if you haven't done it from the start, like you have to just keep propagating it up. And in this case, like we don't have pagination, and the person who's using this, like, is this even worth it? It isn't realistically, but I don't know. It's incremental progress, right? So we'll just make it, I don't know, we'll just make it like 0 for now, I guess. And row is equal to rows.cur. And then down here, where are we indexing? We have to say job is equal to append resp.jobs, server pb.jobs response job, question mark. I guess we would kind of want to capture this, and then because we want its pointer for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. I guess it's. I guess I'll just put this down at the bottom. How about that? Resp.jobs is equal to append resp.jobs. We'll pass in this guy. I guess this does kind of copy it, doesn't it? Which is not really what you want. I guess what I want to do is append up top and then take the address just like we were doing in the original loop. Job is equal to resp.jobs of len resp.jobs minus 1. Okay. Jobs response job. You always forget the -1, then you get a panic. Yeah. Okay. Calls is equal to rows.types. Are we done yet? Are we done yet? Oh my god, we have to do exactly the same thing here. That's irritating. That is irritating. Okay, resp.locations equals append resp.locations. And then this is a locations response location. This is protobuf code. We love how it looks, don't we? Okay, more? This looks like one where we messed with it earlier, so let's undo what we did. Wait, oh, it was always called rows1? That's bizarre. That's why we didn't get it in our little replace loop. All right, rows1. I don't know why one would do that. But hey, well, this should be working. What's wrong with this guy? Okay, I think we actually managed to, no. I thought that we managed to fix this entire file. Why doesn't it like this? Var okay bool, okay redeclared in this block, but then how come it's complaining? Oh, did I redeclare down below or something? Yeah. All right, what now? What if we try to compile this bad boy? Give us the next errors. That was a massive file. I think we were supposed to change like 30 of these things in the end, and I think we probably changed about, I don't know, 15 to 20. Okay. I thought we already looked at this file. Oh, we probably just didn't like fill in all of the little bits. Var okay bool. Rows equal to rows.curve. Oh man, you're totally right that I have all of these like sketchy error not equals to nil scattered everywhere. Oh boy. I think I could just global search replace that later. Oh, this has to be query iterated, that's the problem. So unfun. So unfun. If len rows equals to 0, return nil nil. So I guess in this case we have to say found a row bool. If found, oh no, I guess we could just do it since we're like adding to this records thing. This is like again. We're just like making a big iterator thing just to copy it into yet another array. So it's really sad. I don't know how many you're supposed to get out of this thing. This thing doesn't have any limits, so whatever. We'll say records equals append records ptpd.record, and then we'll say Grid equals records of len records -1. Take the address of it. Oh wait, we don't even need to do that. Wait, we literally already, we just need to append, I guess. Is this crazy, or does it have like an off by 1 error? Did I change this and it didn't used to have an off by 1 error? But it's like we're I++ing at the top of the loop, and then I don't know, it's kind of weird. Let's just get rid of I altogether and use len records. Oh wait, yeah, -1. Get rid of I. Don't need this I. It's a pointless I. Okay, so automatic stats. Rows equal to rows.cur. Get rid of this busted error not equal to nil business. Oh, you know, we have to be returning error everywhere. Scary, scary, scary. Did I forget to do that? What happens if we get an error in this function since we don't propagate an error back up? Do we just log something? Looks like it. Let's go back to this other one because we do have to return our error. Fix these totally busted non-equal nil things. Okay, so stats cache next. Stats cache.go. All right, so we just do our same old boring thing. Var k bool rows equal to rows.cur. This has to be query iterator, and we have to pass in SQL-based dot no session data override. If I tried streaming making YouTube videos, I'd just end up spending $10 frivolously. $10? I mean, you'd probably spend more than $10 frivolously, not gonna lie. There's like all this BS that you want to buy that's like sort of fun to buy. You should try it though, it's super fun. It's really, 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 really fun. I like streaming a lot. It's like pair programming, that's kind of how I feel about it. You get your speech muscles going about the code that you're writing. 10K, yeah, that makes more sense. You get talking about coding. It's quite fun. I enjoy it quite a bit, It's always helpful to have people who are nice and chatting in the chat like you guys are. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out. It's really fun for me. So thank you. Let's try this compiling again. So some packages compile, that's kind of cool. Quite a few packages compile, that's exciting. I'm gonna try to see what the deal is with this hot camera thing. I'm just gonna turn it off. I'm a little bit concerned for the poor baby. Okay. Well, it does at least turn on again, so I didn't like pose it completely, but I'm gonna leave it off. You two spend money on stuff you don't need. You ordered an Elgato key light, my dude, and almost got a Stream Deck, but decided oh yeah, that's right. I meant to comment on that. That's such a cool project, dude. I saw you tweeting about it. That's such a perfect, that MIDI controller is such a perfect thing to make a Stream Deck because it's cool looking, it's got lights. There's way more buttons than a Stream Deck, I feel like, and you can do all sorts of fun stuff, I think that's a great project, man. I'm excited for you. I think you're gonna have fun doing it. And I think that's like a good thing that people like to watch on Twitch, as far as I can tell. They love to watch programmers writing code for Twitch stuff. That's like probably the #1 most common thing under the science and technology section on Twitch is people being like, I'm gonna write a Twitch bot. I'm gonna write a thing that changes the colors of my lights behind me. And I think it's because it's really accessible. It's like fun. You can see on the stream. I'm gonna maybe change how the streamer stuff looks. So it's like engaging maybe. That's my analysis. I don't know though. I think with stuff like this, it's like, I don't know. This is like so down in the weeds, boring kind of stuff that it's like, I'm not sure if it's as fun to watch. Definitely, I will talk about my ideas more tomorrow, but I want to make this crazy customizable. That's super cool. Yeah, you should definitely, I mean, if you want to get popular, I'm telling you, it's really good to make it so that somebody in the chat can type a thing and it'll change the lights on your stream deck. And then you'll have a little camera on it and then they'll feel like, wow, I'm actually part of the stream. I'm part of this guy's life. I think people respond really well to that. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot. I think it's a really smart strategy. One person that I respect a lot who does this stuff is Adam, Adam with a long number of numbers. He does these educational things where he's making stuff and trying to show people his learning process. I respect that a lot. I think he's really good at being vulnerable about what he's learning on stream. It's really impressive. There was one where he was learning how to do like NES programming or something. That seemed extremely hard. And he just, to his credit, powered through and got something actually working in the end. It was really impressive. Programming, I think it's just cool to see people work on stuff they're knowledgeable about. Networking guy who doesn't know much about databases is cool. That's cool. That's cool. I'm glad. That's good feedback for me. Thanks. SQL-based I mean, yeah, I don't know. Am I doing anything with databases right now, or am I just like refactoring a giant Go code base? Hard to say. I think some of the other streams that I've done have been a bit more focused on database stuff. But it's also hard to come up with good bite-sized projects for streams like this that have to do with databases. Some things that I did in the past, I was changing some of the, like adding some new index types essentially to the database, or like changing the way that we do indexing a couple of ways. I was adding partial indexes, which is a really cool project, but it's pretty difficult. And it turns out that like, I don't know, it needed more work than I could really put into it on stream. So I ended up handing it to somebody else, but that was a kind of a cool project. I added like this create table like thing, which is sort of a way to clone a SQL table, keep its schema into a new table. That was like a pretty easy stream project. But there's like only so many of those to go around, I feel. So you need to get inventive at a certain point. Yeah. The thing that gave me inspiration for this particular thing that I'm doing right now, which is pretty heinous, is that I did one where I mean, it's actually honestly kind of a similar project. I was changing, so we have these things called virtual tables in the database, which are ways to get in-memory data from random internal parts of the database out via SQL. But the way we do it under the hood used to be similarly to this. We would like not stream them properly, basically. We wouldn't iterate or model them. And that was kind of like this big refactor project too, that's slightly different. I thought it was pretty fun and it was successful. So in the end, I was like, let's take this to the next level and make the entire internal package, stream. But I think this is a bit more irritating. I don't know if it's really gonna work out perfectly well by the end. Yeah. All right, file by file. Oh, right, down here we just have to make sure to always return error. Oh my gosh, am I still doing the same mistake over and over? Do I have like a bad version of this in my paste buffer? Is that my problem? What is my problem? Automatic stats. I just did that one. Stats cache. I don't know. Okay, error. Yeah, this is just busted, dude. Just busted. Okay. So I think that we've made it up to this big package that was just called SQL. And this package is it's like the daddy package of many other packages. So I'm hoping the fact that we have errors in this one means that we're getting to the top of this big refactoring chain. And soon we will be able to stop this and test it. I do think that what I'm doing now is better than what I started out doing, which was like just fixing one of them and then recompiling, because that was just taking absolutely forever. I do think this is more efficient. But I also feel like I'm deep in like a heinous rabbit hole right now, and I may never like escape alive. I'm hoping that I won't have to like abandon all of this. That would really suck, but we'll see, I guess.
In this country right now, we have this phenomena of
oh right, and the reason that these don't work is that I have to change query to be query iterator. Pass in SQL base.no session data override. Okay. Okay, that's that file. What else do we got? Give us some more errors. Bring us the errors. We will slaughter them. I have zero tolerance error policy on the stream. Okay, lease.go. This is an important file. Let's de-error it. It feels so good. Make things compile. It's so satisfying. Maybe that's why people like programming in a sense, because there's all of this itch scratching, like constant itch scratching. Like something doesn't work, gotta fix it. Var okay bool. Once you start something, it's hard to stop until it's finished. I think that's part of why I like programming. What is this guy? Run worker. Okay, so what happens in this case if we get an error? I think we're supposed to just log, is my guess. Connection. Unable to read orphaned leases.
Building bridges.
I guess we just log here. If error is equal to nil, not equal to nil. So used to typing that. I guess I need to declare my error here as well.
Inside.
Okay. And then of course I've got to again change. Okay, so this is var rows is now going to be my internal rows struct. What was it called? SQL util dot internal rows. This is going to be query iterator, and it's going to take in SQL base dot no session, whatever the heck that thing is called. Okay. Try again? Try again?
Wherever you go.
Is it gonna work? I'm guessing not yet.
People are the same, you know.
Scrub. This is a funny feature of the database. This is a feature of the database that's designed to try to find problems. In other words, try to find places where something went heinously wrong, and we left some kind of like a dangling foreign key thing, or like some kind of broken encoding or something. So it's really like, theoretically, the idea was that it was supposed to be defensive, right? You made a bug. God forbid you corrupted somebody's data. You could maybe discover it using this thing. The thing is that
Inside Revolution.
Nobody uses it. It's a little bit paradoxical. It's like, when would you tell somebody to run scrub, right? It's like, it's broken. And if they run it and it tells you that it's broken, like what do you get exactly? I don't know. I'm skeptical of Scrub. I also think, I don't know. I would like it to be good. I would like it to be something that you could run often. That would be really the ideal. We have this thing called the consistency checker, which is always constantly running in the background. That's checking something at a lower level of the database. It's trying to check that all of the copies of the data that we store on disk, since it's distributed, we replicate the data in multiple different ways. It's trying to check that all of those copies of the data are consistent. And that thing, if it finds an inconsistency, it immediately like crashes the whole server and forces you to manually recover, which is cool. I think if we made Scrub good enough to be constantly running, now that would be useful, but we just didn't make it good enough for that. So it's sort of in a sorry state that I regret. Okay, and now in this case, if we got an error, we just return it. Our old friend, if error is not equal to nil, return error. Our most favorite friend. Okay, so that's that. Let's see if there's more problems with Scrub stuff that comes up.
Coming together. Inside Revolution.
Inside Revolution. This is kind of a cool song. What is this? It's called, oh, I don't know. It's in the middle of some giant mix. Illusionist by Mitch Oliver. All right, migrations.go. Man, do I know too much about this file from earlier today? The answer is yes.
Building bridges.
I know some scary things about this file.
People.
Migrations are really hard to do. Really, really hard to do. You have to be thinking about the past and the future. Changing stuff on disk, you have to be really, really careful. Easy to mess it up. I've done it. I've messed it up. If error is not equal to nil. Now what do we do in this case? If we get an error at this point, we can just return it. We're allowed. Cool. Oh, here's another instance of me screwing up that original. Yes, exactly. Man, you're reading my mind, man. You're reading my mind. The problem is that I did that whole thing in a giant search and replace, and I didn't undo it. I think what I don't know what I should do about this. I guess I could just search this exact line because it really should be the same everywhere. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna search for this and just get rid of it. Just blast it out. Just get rid of it. Okay, so we're searching for this and we're replacing it with this, I guess. Man, there's a lot of them. Okay, cool. That's gonna make our lives better. Just feel a little bit less scared about the future. Why is it so slow to do that? It's shockingly slow to do that. Two large files are ignored. Okay, well hopefully those were not Go files because that would be really ridiculous. Sorry, I just searched for this and I couldn't search because it was too big. I don't know. Let's ignore that. Let's just assume that never happened. I think it'll be fine. All right. This guy has to be changed to use the new interface. It's got to get the old. I guess it's already got an okay for something, so it's got to get the old rose.cur baby. This guy's got to get a var okay bool. It's got to get a rose. Oh, I've also got to check the error at the end. Oh, I did that already. This one doesn't though. Return error. I'm guaranteed to have missed places. Just 1,000% guaranteed. But that's okay. I'll just review what I've done after I finish this, and hopefully I will be able to have a more eagle eye when I'm reviewing them all at once. That's the hope, anyway. Okay, what happened here is I didn't change the interface. Cool. Okay,
Artists
let's
say,
try again.
You know,
Let's try again. Let's hope.
we all want same things. Connection.
got 10 bajillion threads because we start like 10 bajillion Go routines when we start this database. And then I'm going to search for where we're blocked the first time. And it looks like we're blocked the first time on this SQL migrations disallow public user row. It calls query row X, it calls this iterator, it calls query internal, it calls exec internal, and then it's sitting waiting here at line 621 of internal.go. So that's what we're going to try to figure out next. And it looks like we're selecting on this, I see. So this was the thing that we added to wait until we got the result types of a query. And I guess we're never sending to it properly or something like that. So let's try to figure out what's going on with that. The idea is that we have this calls channel we make. We have a callback. And when we get this callback invoked, we're supposed to push the result columns that we were going to do onto this channel. And for whatever reason, that's not happening. So let's try to trace where this callback is supposed to get called from, and see if that will help us understand what's going on. It's supposed to get called all the way down in the bowels of this thing when set columns is called. So why don't I guess we can add some logs to this. We can also try to run this through the debugger. That might be a little bit faster just because the compile times on this are taking forever. I want to also see if there's any more information that I can get out of this big stack trace before I start something all over again. Let's sort of maybe search for exec internal, because I think that's something that we're always calling. So it looks like we do have a couple of people blocked on this actually, which is interesting. I'm wondering whether I did a dumb thing. Either this is all the same bug, or I accidentally have aliased this channel, this calls channel that we're supposed to be using, which would be really, really bad. So let's actually just confirm that we haven't done that before I go any further here. And it looks like, let's see, so init con x, I think at this method is like, this internal executor thing is a singleton. So I'm not supposed to edit this, but this method, from this method on, I'm allowed to like, I don't know, if I make something on the stack, that's mine, it's all mine. I'm not gonna alias it. So the question is, did I accidentally, here's my set calls callback, and I do make a fresh calls channel. And you know, I can actually double check. I think I'm allowed to like, I can peek at the memory addresses here. So let me just, can I see who I'm waiting on though? No, probably not. I probably can't do that. That's okay. I'm pretty sure that I'm not aliasing this thing. The truth is that realistically, this thing is just not getting called for some reason, which I find suspicious. I find that quite suspicious. It might mean, I mean, I guess I just really want to add logging to this set columns thing, because I have assumed that it always gets called, and it really should. It should always get called. If it's not getting called, that would mean something very deeply problematic is happening. So let me just go ahead and add some logging here. Setting columns on buffered command result. I wonder if I actually already have logging for this. You know, I bet I do. I bet there's some logging that gets hit deep in this executor thing. If I think it probably has logging for the like sort of state machine thing, which is sort of what we care about here, and that would be a more durable way or more simple way of getting logs out of this. So where would that be happening? Where would that be happening? Dispatch to execution engine. Oh, I see. So maybe this actually happens ahead of planning, so it's a little bit different than I thought. But nonetheless, this still absolutely should be happening. There's 0% chance that it shouldn't. I'm just gonna, rather than talk any further, I'm just gonna start recompiling this after adding that print line to see what the heck is happening. In fact, even in the contract of this set columns thing, it says, helpfully, this needs to be called once before add row. So my question stands, why is it not working? let's just take a look while this is recompiling. We pass in as callback. We call init conx. We push some stuff in. We push specifically this, bind and prepare business in. Oh, you know what it could mean? It could mean that we're reading on this thing and we're getting an error back on the error channel, but we didn't touch that error channel. I bet that's what's going on. I bet. And that's quite problematic for us, I want to say, because we want to be able to check what's on this error channel without actually reading from it, because I think that would be, if we accidentally read a row, that would be very bad. I also want to look through this big stack dump to see whether there's anybody who is in the middle of trying to push rows or whatever, and who's not just listening. Like, did our pusher sort of quit too, or did it quit at all rather? And it kind of looks like it did. I'm not too sure. I kind of think it did quit, which would be symptomatic of us getting an error somewhere in our new code and not checking it. And we're reading on this channel forever and nobody's gonna ever push to it. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, I'm just waiting for this stupid thing to link again so I can try. That would be what I would really want to do right now. Man, I'm not sure what's up with the linking times. I am quite shocked, to be honest. I am quite shocked that it's so slow today. Like a 14 CPU seconds spent doing this link. That even seems less than what it feels like I'm waiting for. Oh, here's the link. This link has been taking 47 CPU seconds. That's wild. That's wild. Okay, so we've run this thing, we froze it. We didn't print anything out, which is honestly, I don't know. It's hyper suspicious. Let's run with some logs. How about that? Instead of running demo, which presumably is too high level at this point to even be trying. Cockroach short start, and we can do log to standard error and see what happens here. We need insecure as well. Okay, so we're getting some more exciting things, I want to say. And maybe this will be, I think I already had some data in this data directory, so let me clear it out and try again. So we have our first obvious problem here, which is that somebody's complaining, unable to log something, 0 rows affected by log insertion, expected exactly 1 row affected. So I feel like maybe that would be a good thing for us to start debugging rather than just this sort of amorphous bag of brokenness. So let's figure out who's doing this and look at it. 0 rows affected by. I guess I can search unable to log node join event. Unable to log node join event. Also, this music has gotten really bad. It was really good before, and now it's gotten pretty sad. So I'm going to switch it to something else, which is this. This is going to be chiller. Okay, so for some reason we don't have anything like this. Maybe this is a format string. Yeah, okay, so unable to log something event. I guess this is used multiple times by a few different people. Insert event record, I see. So this is probably the guy that's actually doing stuff under the hood. And it does in fact use this exact guy.
con esa cultura maya que no conocía
Interesting,
los
interesting,
límites
interesting.
entre su vida, entre la
So I guess what we could
naturaleza,
do, time for you to head out and drink some whiskey on a call with friends. Enjoy so much, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you spending time hanging out with me. And you guys, Matt Liar, I don't know how to say your name, Layer, he has a great stream too. You should follow him, check him out. He's going to do a stream this weekend. Go to his stream, it's really good. Have a good one, man. I'll talk to you. Or see you, whatever it is. Layer, okay. Next time I'll get it. Bye-bye. Okay, so for this, nice, yes, we got you a follow from Lithium. For this,
en Tulum, sus playas, sus cenotes, su arqueología,
I guess what we want to do is sort of just like log what's going on over here. That'd be my guess.
su hospitalidad,
I haven't a clue who you are. No, I do not. I think I learned this at one
su
point.
naturaleza,
Now that
están en riesgo.
I'm like big bit daddy here. One follow from me is like 100. Did I know who you are at one point? I can't remember. I can't remember if I learned who you were at any point. There's one of my friends who comes on with a name that always confuses me. It may or may not be you.
Todo por
It's just you're just joking around being a big shot, but you do throw a lot of bits. Oh, that's cool.
vamos a
That's
salvar
awesome. Okay,
de
cool,
la
cool, cool,
ignorancia
cool,
en
cool.
el poder.
Just a random person don't know URL.
Todos necesitan saber la verdad.
Yeah, I bet all of the streamers that you watch really appreciate your
Con
presence,
tu energía para ello.
as I do.
Tú sabes, tú sabes.
Okay, so I want to log some stuff right here in execx because I believe that this is what is getting all screwed up. 0 rows affected, expected, exactly 1 row affected. He works on WireGuard. Yeah, he does. He does some cool stuff. He does some cool stuff. WireGuard is like the new hotness, right? I think I was saying that in his stream the other day. You know what I should do? You work on boring CRUD things? I mean, CRUD things are not that boring necessarily. I think that making stuff like that well is a thing that's hard, for sure. You follow Tailscale? Yeah, exactly. That's I follow them on Twitter, I think. I think that the guy, is it Brad Fitz, who's on Tailscale? I think that he used to work on Golang, if I'm not totally crazy, so yeah. Right, so I kind of want to, oh hey, look at what it is. It's my old friend error not equals to nil. That was the problem. Okay, so now I bet we're gonna get a nice fat error next time we try to run this. And hopefully the error will say something constructive that will help us figure out what's going on.
Siempre asombrado, ¿no?
You know what, I bet I know what the problem is now. I bet the problem is that we're checking rows.types before we check the error from rows or something like that.
Aparentemente simple.
I bet we're just like not checking errors enough so that when we actually try to get the columns, everybody has already shut down. Nobody's gonna ever send us anything ever again, and we're just like stuck there waiting on the channel
La
forever.
inmensa
I think that's probably what's happening,
se da uno
which is frustrating for me.
cuenta que forma uno parte del misterio.
But I think at least figuring out what this error is right now is gonna be a big help. And it should get printed to the logs, and maybe we'll be in business again. This is the little thing that I used to figure out that my CPU was dying from lack of power, by the way. Intel Power Gadget. It's pretty good. I don't know what it really means. Utilization percent core. Does that mean I'm using 78% of my cores? I don't know. I wonder if I can notice when things are getting throttled with this. That could be kind of cool. I bet you could notice. Like, I bet this frequency thing will change if the computer gets throttled halfway through. But I think that the temperature would probably go up for that. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't get throttled if the temperature doesn't go up. I don't know. I don't know how computers work. Let's get this baby linking. I wonder if something did change recently. I want to ask some other people to see if they also have experienced slower and slower links as of late. I think it's just out of control. Okay, so what does it say? It's not logging anything. I'm wondering what the deal is with that. Can I connect to this database, or is it totally hosed? It seems to be totally hosed. What if I turn up the logging level way up to the top? I wonder if that'll help me. Verbosity equals 3? I think, no. There's a way to, you can turn up verbosity per file, but I want to just turn up the entire verbosity. Log file verbosity, is that what it is? No, it's not that. Is it just capital V? It might be dash capital V. V3? I don't remember how you're supposed to do this. What the heck? Did we change that recently? Log file verbosity, I could have sworn there was something that let you just override this thing altogether. I think I can figure that out. If I go in here. In fact, I think we have like a test configuration that makes sure that things don't break if you run them at high verbosity. Test logic verbose. So what does this thing do? How does it do its magic? It says v module equals star equals 10. Okay, so that's what I just have to do. V module equals star equals 3. Did that even do anything? I don't really think so. You know what we should probably do? I just feel so frustrated that you have to keep recompiling this entire thing each time. Row equals, let me change this guy to use the pattern that I'm using everywhere. What if I just say, found an error during exec. I think I'll do this. I think after I figure this out, it might be time for me to call it. I'm getting a little tired. It's getting a little hot in here. But I do want to at least figure out what this error is as my last act. I bet there's got to be, yeah, there's got to be something. I bet as soon as I stop streaming, like the link times will go back to something that's like half reasonable. That's my honest guess. It's a bit frustrating. I think I want to try to look into trying to do some of this development on a VM, live somewhere else. That could be kind of nice. Could be a little bit easier. Could be a little bit faster. Could be a little bit more fun. I think I'm gonna try that out for next time. But we'll see. If you change too many things at once, it gets confusing. That's one thing. You don't want to change all your variables at the same time. It's a good general principle, but I think it works for this pretty nicely as well. So crazy, like 1 minute long link. All right. Is it gonna give us an error this time at least? That could be cool. I feel like it didn't even print anything. Oh, that is frustrating. Found an error. How could it not have done that, I wonder? I don't know. It's a true mystery. It's a true, hold on. Let me just delete this data directory and try one more time. Try one more time. Doesn't really print out any of these errors. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, I think I am gonna call it a day, but thank you so much you guys for tuning in. This was a really, really fun stream. I learned a lot, had a good time. I think that we made a decent amount of progress on this project. The project was a little bit different than what I was expecting, I think. There's a lot more refactoring and a lot less coding, but I think it was pretty good. It was pretty good, and hopefully I can have something to show for it. I'll tweet about it. If you don't follow me on Twitter, it's in my profile, but I usually tweet about the project that I worked on stream after the stream is over, so you can see where it ended up, since it is open source, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, give it a shot. Thanks again for tuning in. Give me a follow on Twitch, by the way, if you haven't. I would appreciate that. And I'll see you next time. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Goodbye.